I just paused it. You are you're ready to start the meeting.
Okay. People can see us. This is exciting. Okay. Today is a Wednesday, June 23rd. It is 7:00 p.m. and this is a special, this is a hearing of the Chagrin Falls Village Council to hear the matter of variances for permanent parcel 931-13-057, also known as 13 Bell Street. Okay, so we will do a roll call real quick.
DiBernardo,
Here.
Evans,
Here.
Grube,
Here.
Newell,
Here.
Rocky,
Here.
Rogoff,
Here.
Weigel.
And Mr. Weigel has recused himself from this matter due to a business relationship. So, Mr. Jameson, could you give us a little bit of a rundown on why we are gathered tonight?
Sure. All right. The village, as you all know, we have a lease executed with SWC Boncaso Holdings LLC for the village-owned parcel of land located to the west of the building at 13 Bell Street. SWC Boncaso Holdings, Amy Weinfurtner is the owner of this building, and she is proposing and in the process of converting the space for use as a pizza restaurant, and she has a tenant that's working on that. That lease originally dates back to 2011. It was modified several times over the years, 2018, and most recently in this year to adjusting the rent and to continue the lease of this land for the purpose of an outdoor dining area for the restaurant. So that lease is in place. When plans were submitted, a zoning review is done, and there were several items that were in need of adjustment by the Planning Commission, as well as the Board of Zoning Appeals, several variances that were required to move forward with the plans as presented. So bottom line, the matter first went before the Planning Commission, and they approved the setback of the outdoor dining area to be at the 0 lot line space right along the borders of this property. And just so everybody has a clear understanding, on this property, let me see if I can get to annotate. Give me a quick sec here. So this parcel right along here is the village parcel. Comes out to the right-of-way line. And then that is proposed to be all outdoor dining area. And then this area in front is proposed to also be outdoor dining area in front of the parcel owned by SWC Boncaso. And then the proposal was that this entire area during the warm months would be used for outdoor dining. And then when the colder weather set in and outdoor dining wasn't feasible, that these seats in the front would be eliminated and this area would be retracted back to this area here in the back only, and the front would return to parking. Currently, the building's been vacant for well over probably 10, 15 years in that amount of time. The previous tenant was a salon, and this area in the front had been used for parking for that business back then. So when the matter went before the Board of Zoning Appeals on May 25th, there were 4 variances that were required that all passed by the Board of Zoning Appeals in one motion with the approval of 4-1. The first one, I'll go through these real quickly. The first one was section 113805A2, outdoor service variance to allow of 20 feet to allow outdoor service in the required front yard, which would be just this area here in the property in front of the 13 Bell Street building. That was what that variance referred to. The second variance is to section 114102A2, off-street parking facilities on the central shopping district. So in 2019, the code was changed. So any increase in floor area or seating capacity, indoor or outdoor, requires a new parking plan and a parking requirement to apply. So based on the number of proposed seats in the outside dining area, a variance of 16 parking spaces would be required based upon the increase in this floor area and the seating capacity, just on the outside of the building. There was no increase in the inside seating or the increased area to the building. The walls are standing. The third variance was to section 114103A, continuation of parking facilities. And this variance, the code requires that all existing parking shall be utilized, shall not be removed or taken away, any parking that exists. So the parking spots that exist or had been, the area that has been used as parking were proposed to be taken out of service during the warm months for installation of the outdoor dining in that area. The fourth variance was to section 115102, the riparian buffer regulations. This requires anything within 120 feet of the river, low water mark of the river, to require variance to construct anything in that distance. The 120 foot, pretty much the edge of the river is right along the back of the building. So the entire area here is within the river buffer. This has always been a concrete pad here in the past. So the only change is that it's not going to have a brick surface. So that would require a 51-foot variance to the river buffer requirement. All four variances were approved and were passed under one motion. Per our code, after the meeting, I received three petitions from three council people requesting this review hearing tonight. So the meeting was scheduled and properly noticed, and that's what brings us here today.
Awesome.
Anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Rob?
I'd like to, first of all, say good job, Rob, and thank you for the pin to highlight what you're talking about. It makes it a lot easier. I have one real simple question. Where is the right-of-way / sidewalk on this diagram or these plans that you're showing?
Sure. I will believe this is the right-of-way line right down here, and I'll show you another map in a second that better clarifies the right-of-way line, makes it a little clearer. So the proposal is to bring the outdoor dining area right up to the right-of-way line and not going over it.
Okay.
So if you can see in this map, you can kind of get an idea. There's a trench drain right along here that's in the concrete apron area. And then this is the depth, kind of from the trench drain to the building. They put the dining area right on that line. On this other diagram, this a little more clearly shows, let's see here. This has a little more detail, gives a little more definition of where the curb is of the street, where my cursor is. And then the trench drain is the series of little blocks here. And then the right-of-way line is that solid black line. So in this map, and let me just give me one quick second here and we can move on. So the proposed outdoor dining area would come roughly to here in scale, looking at the whole area around it. The property at 13 Bell Street, just so everyone knows, ends right here at the edge of the building, even though it is attached to some garages that are owned by another party. So, and that's what I have on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Angie.
Just Rob, while you're doing this, can you the sidewalk is basically the curb. So the curb from where the curb is there, can you just mark that where the sidewalk is? Is it from the curb back? This is the street where the curb is, right? And then the sidewalk is that whole width.
So the challenging thing here is that this building dates to the 1800s, and this area in the front, there's no clear definition of sidewalk along the front of the building. When it was used as the salon, a lot of those vehicles as they're parked, come over the trench
They
drain.
do come into the sidewalk.
Yeah, so looking at how the sidewalk is laid out in front of Bell Street Park, it's right along the curb line. So it's paved right up to the curb. You could
Okay.
consider the sidewalk being roughly 4 foot in the boundary, kind of coming across here. At some point, as you get closer to the Chuck's Beverage building,
Yeah.
there's a walkway
Okay.
in front of that building, and it does go back further,
Okay.
back closer to the building. Keep in mind, this entire space here is all right away. So it's not really clear from the concrete layout or the design exactly where it is. It's always been treated kind of as wherever pedestrians can walk as to pass through, as long as they have means to do so.
Okay,
Okay.
that makes sense. Okay, any other questions for Rob?
You can clear the drawing.
We might want to leave it up.
Okay.
Okay. So next we will hear from the applicant. And Dale is going to swear people in. Dale, you're on mute.
Yeah, we'll swear them in individually.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yes.
All right. I have a hand raised from Jordan Burns. Is that who we want to hear from first?
Yes.
Yes.
Where did Jordan go? There you are.
I'm not seeing him.
It's taking a moment. I've promoted
There we go.
Jordan to the conversation.
Okay.
Is there anyone else I should promote at this time as well?
Here we go. I'm sorry. Are you able to hear me?
We are.
All right. Sorry about that. And
Hold on.
Jordan,
Hold
Jordan,
on.
Let me swear you in. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you'll give before the village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I almost said Board of Zoning Appeals.
Good catch. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Burns.
Thanks very much. Jordan Burns on behalf of the applicant SWC Von Casa Holdings LLC, along with Amy Weinfertner, who you heard earlier, is the principal of Von Casa. First, thanks for scheduling this special meeting. Thanks for your prompt attention to this matter. We don't take that for granted. We really do appreciate it. With respect to the matter before you, as one of the members of the BZA on hearing the application for variances here commented, and I'm paraphrasing, in a village where requests by restaurants for parking variances are not unusual. I think they commented there are hundreds of spaces that have been varied from. This is a truly unusual circumstance that you're presented with tonight. As you will hear in more detail from Amy and also from Eddie Tancredi, the operator of the restaurant. 13 Bell Street is a very unique property, as some of you know from your time in the village. It's an 1,100 square foot building built in the 1890s. As some of you know, I've been involved in any number of matters involving historic structures in the village. And this is one of those structures that I know folks in the village would fight to retain. And that's really what we're doing here tonight. As Rob indicated, this is a building that has been vacant for 10 or 15 years. It was prior to the applicant's purchase and renovation work in disrepair and really an eyesore. And in order to restore it, Amy and her company have undertaken some dramatic steps. One of those dramatic steps is finding the right tenant for this unique building. There aren't a whole lot of tenants out there that can make use of an 1,100 square foot building in dire need of dramatic and expensive improvements, and who can deal with the other constraints of this site. And by constraints in particular, I'm referring to parking. It's a site that, as Rob just explained, has a dearth of parking available on site. Notwithstanding that, back in 2012, the Village Council determined in its wisdom to both allow for the adjacent village-owned property to the west of, directly to the west of the building, to be used for outdoor patio dining and to be leased to the owner of this building for outdoor patio dining, and for no other use, not for musical performances, not as a bar, only for outdoor patio dining. Now, obviously, when that was done, this was park area, still is park area. They had to, the ordinance had to both amend your zoning to allow park property to be used for that purpose and to authorize the lease of the property to the owner of the building. No small matter. And to prove that it was no small matter, there was a referendum once council approved that, and the voters approved both the use of this property as an outdoor patio dining and its lease to the owner of this property. All of that is important both because it shows just what a unique circumstance this is, and the fact that since at least 2012, it was anticipated that this property would be used and be used only for outdoor patio dining, notwithstanding that clearly the site itself, neither the village-owned property nor the building property, have sufficient space for parking to support outdoor patio dining. So built into the ordinance that authorized its use and built into the lease that was ultimately signed by the village and the original owner, the prior owner of the building, is the notion that this was going to be used in the manner it's proposed to be used now, and that there wasn't going to be sufficient parking on site to support that use. Let's fast forward from 2012 to 2017, when SWC Bancasa purchased the building. At the time, didn't have a tenant in mind. As you will hear from Amy, steps were taken to size up the renovations of the building that were necessary and to locate that unique tenant that could utilize this building. It took years. During that time, rent was paid to the village to allow for the use of that village-owned property as outdoor patio parking, just like the prior owner since 2012 had paid that rent. So that to date, there's approximately over $30,000 that has been paid to the village to use this property for outdoor patio parking, even though other than paying that rent, it hasn't actually been put to that use. Now, finally, as you'll hear in some detail, there is a proposed user of the property, a very unique proposed user who has hit upon a restaurant operation that can function in that small space with a tiny kitchen aimed at basically at walk-in dining, I'll call it fast casual dining of a quality that is truly unique. However, as you'll also hear, to make that work, they need the outdoor seating. The outdoor seating that the village approved, that the village's voters approved back in 2012, is essential both to the viability of the restaurant and the usability of the property. Without it, there is no restaurant here. It's as simple as that. And so it is imperative that this outdoor seating be allowed to be used consistent with the lease. With respect to the variances that are necessary here, you heard Rob outline them, and I'll go into more detail in them at the end of our presentation. But suffice it to say, you're familiar with the standards under the village's zoning code that allow for variances in the instance of practical difficulty. That's the scenario that we're in. Those are commonly referred to under Ohio law as the Duncan factors. And all of those factors weigh in favor of granting the variances here. It's not necessary that all of them weigh in favor of it. It's a balancing test that you're going to undertake here. But all of them weigh in favor of it. Without these variances, the use of this property is not viable. And allowing the use with the variances will be a tremendous enhancement, not just to the property itself, which is important, but to the entire area. Again, this is a building that, as you'll hear and see in some detail, was in dramatic disrepair. And at the end of the work that will be done here, work that is going to be done only in support of the proposed use that relies on the variances, that relies on the outdoor patio dining, this will become a real star in the village, and will activate an entirely new area of the village near the falls in a way that it hasn't been active for years. So I'm going to ask Amy Weinfertner to talk a little bit about the property so that she can understand what all has gone into getting us where we are, and the necessity for the variances here. I believe after that, Eddie Tancredi, the operator of the restaurant that's going to be at the property, is going to speak a little bit about that restaurant operation. And then obviously all along the way, if you've got questions, we're going to be happy to answer them. I also have some documents that, as Amy is speaking, I'm going to do my best to share. I've tried to become expert at Zoom over the last year or so. I've mostly failed. So I'll do my best, but please bear with me.
Christy, can you move Amy in to the meeting? And when she's done, we'll move Eddie in. And then
Bet.
before Amy starts speaking, we'll have her get sworn in.
You bet.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jordan. You can finish what you were saying. I just wanted to move Amy in while you were finishing.
So
You
Jordan,
didn't
do you want-
interrupt me. Your timing was perfect. Thanks.
Jordan, would you like to start your screen share at this time?
Actually, the drawing that's up right now is fine to start with.
Okay, thank you. Let me know if it changes.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Amy, Dale will swear you in before you start speaking.
Okay, Amy, can you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you'll give to the village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I'll start with thanking Jordan for that introduction. So we purchased the property for a little history in December 30th, 2017. So right at the end of 2017. We went into 2018, really just trying to understand. There was some question on the depth of the repairs that needed to take place with this building. Worked a lot with the architect and to come up with sort of drawings and plans that were feasible. Because there were some big plans in the past that during the BZA meeting, I think Rick Siegfried had mentioned that became cost prohibitive and things did not move forward. So we went through a bunch of different iterations to see what we could make work with this building. We viewed it as a piece of history all along. We thought we were going to renovate it. There were any other plans for it. We just needed to be creative in terms of what we did with it, what in terms of making it work. With the property, the prior owner had said that there was a lease for patio dining. The intention with the purchase of the property was to always have some sort of restaurant in there. We didn't see a lot of economic viability other than that, but I did talk to a variety of people interested as tenants for the space. And it was, again, just one of those situations that it was really tough to make work. From the previous owner, we assumed the patio lease for the dining. And then we started our work. It was significant. And throughout the work, again, I was talking to various people.
Amy, would you like me to
Yes.
share the photos of the work again, just to get a sense of the state of the building?
You think it's a good time now?
Sure.
Okay, sure. So what we're going to show you is some of the extent I think people saw the work from the outside, but you'll see that it's about 3 minutes long if we see all the sides, but it's pretty interesting that it was hidden from view. We kind of had our heads down working silently in this building, but I think you'll find it interesting. So go ahead, Jordan.
Great. Are you able to see the photos at the title screen, or no?
No, I don't think the screen share started yet.
You have to hit share like again at the bottom sometimes once you've picked your screen.
Let's see here. I'll try it again.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Good deal. Thank you.
Jordan, is your intent to share the PowerPoint presentation?
It is.
Okay, so I'm going to disable your screen share and then you'll select it once again.
All righty.
Um,
Thank you.
So you have to launch whatever you'd like to share first, and then you may share the screen that you've launched.
What would we do without you, Christy?
No, exactly. The voice behind the seal.
So what you want to do is start your PowerPoint first, launch that, and then select screen share.
So you're still not seeing it?
We
No,
are
we
now.
have
So
it
we
now.
see it now. Yeah.
Okay,
We got it.
great.
And then I think you can.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, unfortunately, the header is blocking
go.
my way there. So bear with me.
I think there's a way.
There we go. Okay.
So Amy, I'm gonna just scroll through this if you want to just highlight some of the
Sure.
photos.
I
along the
just
way.
did some of the historical photos in the beginning. See the bathroom?
Mhm.
Probably everybody has seen these.
Could you go back to the one that showed the cars in front? That might be beneficial.
Oh, you're going the other way. Other way. Other
I
way.
am. Oops.
There.
Hey, oh, no, not that one. Keep going. No,
Back.
Before.
Yeah, right there is good.
Keep going before. Another one. There you go. Okay, that's the beginning. This is when we took it over inside. Oh, it's going kind of fast. Okay. Did it freeze? There we go. Yeah. The brick was in particularly bad condition. They were practically living in the building. This wall, there was a pipe that had burst years back, and the footer, you can move over to the next one. This is a lot of the wall. The footer had, one of the things we had evaluated through the structural evaluation was the footer had started to collapse because of a pipe break many years before. And that footer was built in 1890 and it was built by brick. So all that had to come out. So the entire west wall was taken. You can keep going. There's a lot of these. Freeze. There we go. That was the inside of the building when the floor was removed, and there's more pictures to come where you'll see the hole. So we took the brick from the wall and salvaged those brick and then put it back in. It's what, when you go into the building, that's the new footer. When you go into the building, you'll see the restored brick is on the inside where it's visible. But that's a new footer that was poured. This is the wall going back up with mostly restored brick from the building originally. You can also notice there was no electricity. There was no electricity in this building for about 15 years, or 15 years, 10 years. That's, we're starting to take off the paint. This next one's an amazing picture. Oop.
Oops.
It's okay. But it's starting to come alive now. The windows are going in. The plumbing. I probably got the most input from the public regarding that window. There you go. So, yeah, wow. So we submitted plans to the Architectural Review Board. That went very smoothly. They were very supportive in the plans we had. We started our work, found a tenant last summer, started working through various discussions with the village. We both on the lease side and on what we needed to do. Very late in the game, the parking issue came up, and in terms of understanding that aspect of the zoning. So that was very late in the discussion. We took it to the Planning and Zoning Committee, submitted a parking plan. I had talked to the plaza owner briefly. My parking plan was more where the public could park in a walkable distance. I've since had multiple discussions with the plaza owner. She doesn't have spaces to lease. There are, in my parking plan, there was also the 15 spaces on Bell Street. So during the discussion, during planning and zoning, they suggested that we ask for a full variance with the BZA. We had a very long meeting, and at the end of that meeting, they appropriately approved the variances. So,
Okay.
I think that's the summary.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
I don't.
Oh, for council for you. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you saying that you need this variance just because the building was vacant and you couldn't find a tenant, and this is the only way you're gonna be able to occupy this business?
So I did talk to various people, but to renovate a building, so it's obvious that this building couldn't be demolished. I mean, this building is loved by people in the village. And to make the renovation costs work, it was very likely that we needed something that was going to produce the right income to be able to rent this building.
So why didn't you try to seek,
Go
why
ahead.
didn't you try to seek approval for these variances before you sunk a bunch of money into it?
Because we had the lease. We assumed the entire time that with that lease, we could do patio dining because the lease was for patio dining.
You know, that's kind of the crux of the thing and where I need a little help understanding. You were kind of given some parking spaces based on the square footage and the table seating area in the original plan. And then by adding outdoor seating other than the lease space, you needed additional parking to cover that under our zoning laws. And that became a part of the variance. Do you understand what I'm asking? There was two different
Yes, the
sets of parking.
Right, the building itself doesn't need the parking variance. It's the patio, and the patio is what we had the lease for.
No, wait a minute now. Is it all of the patio or the seating in the front and the patio? I guess what I'm asking.
I'm sorry.
The front is our property, and then the patio side is the
Let me ask it a different way.
okay.
If you were going to use the lease space for outdoor dining,
Mhm.
did you need a variance for parking?
Yes.
And how many spaces was
Originally?
that?
No. As it turns out, under the village's code, even though the lease is with the village and it allows only outdoor patio dining, no other use of that property. We have been advised by the village that a variance is required with respect to that in order to utilize that in accordance with the lease.
Okay, all right. I've heard this 3 times. How many seats, how many seats did you have on that patio area that you're leasing from the village? And how many parking spaces did you need for a variance for that area? Do you understand the question? I understand you have outdoor dining both on the leased property that the village owns and outdoor dining in the front of the building. Is that
Rob,
correct?
Can you answer that question? Because so he's asking how many seats or how many parking spots would they need if they just had if we forget about for a second the village owned property and we just talk about the 2 tables that are in front of the building.
Yeah, there are a total of 24 seats outside, including both areas. I believe that there are, and Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, that there are only 4 seats in the area directly in front of the building, within the footprint of the building lot. Am I correct?
Yes.
So I'm not sure.
So,
Rob, I'm not sure if the calculation has been done because under your code, it's done in 2 different ways. 1, based on the number of seats, and 2, based on the square footage devoted to the patio area. And I'm not sure whether that calculation was done, but my assumption based on the fact that 24 seats required 16 parking spaces
that's correct.
is that 20 seats would probably require 14 parking spaces.
I'm sorry, how many?
I'm approximating 14 parking spaces.
Okay, yeah, you broke up there. Okay. All right,
So-
that answered my question. Thank you.
Or to put it a different way, that you might need 1 or 2 additional parking spaces for those 4 seats.
Right.
Yes, you need 2 additional, you're taking away basically 2 parking spots, one and a half to add 2 tables. But if you look at that area, you're now requesting a variance for the 2 parking spots that you've taken away.
Yeah, because that's converted to outdoor seating, that's what the code requires. That's fair.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Jan.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. If you, are you going to enclose the outdoor seating so it becomes part of your regular year-round seating?
No, it's just seasonal. It's just while the weather's nice.
All right, so if you didn't have the parking up front or the seating up front, how many seats would you have on the patio and inside?
Approximately 20.
So the 2 that you're going to have in front of the building are only 2 two-tops,
Yes.
correct?
There's not much space.
Pardon me?
There's not much space.
Well, there's 3 parking spots there, correct?
Mm-hmm. There's 3 parking spots, but there's also 2 bollards. Kind of gets in the way.
So you just, hold on, can we go back to that? You just said, if you look at the outdoor patio and the interior and you forget the stuff in front of the building, you'd have 20 seats, but based on your drawing that's up on the screen, you have 20 seats right here. So how many seats are you putting inside the building?
Eddie will have to speak to that directly. I think it is 30. But the way he has it laid out, it's not all tables. Some of it is where you can see the view, but that's something he will have to answer.
Dale, would this be an appropriate time to swear in Eddie so that he can
Sure.
answer that question?
Yes. Yeah, I see that Christie has promoted him.
And just so everybody knows, I did the quick calculation and to answer Jim Knoll's question earlier, if just for the village parcel, the seating proposed there would require 14 parking spaces under our code. And the space in front of 13 Bell would be, those 4 seats would require 2 parking spaces.
Eddie, let me swear you in if you'd raise your right hand for us. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you'll give to village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Eddie, if you want to go ahead and give a quick spiel
Yeah.
about your plans, and then we're going to circle back and answer these questions because I suspect some of the answers that council's looking for right now are you're planning to share with us anyhow. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. Thank you. Yeah, so first off, some of this, sorry if some of it's repetitive, but I just want to kind of go over the premise of really what the vision is of this space as far as what we're looking to do and what we're excited to do to bring to the village. So I know that we've touched on that this is it's a fast casual dining, and one of the reasons why it's not a multiple course. So you're going to have shorter dining experiences. I'm not taking reservations. It's first come, first serve, walk in only, for that matter. So that's another reason. And really what we're bringing is it's something that it's going to be what we're liking to call is more of that quick European fare, a lot of street food. We're going to be doing 9-inch individual pizzas that are going to be cooked in 60 to 90 seconds in our 800-degree wood oven that was custom made in Naples, Italy. And with that, we're going to be serving salads, gelato, and some Italian ice. So our menu is really mainstreamed. And one of the reasons why we're doing that is, as we mentioned before, with the 1,100 square feet, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. And because with just focusing on pizza, my intention is to have, the best pizza in the area, because that's really what we're focused on. So instead of focusing on having 20, 30 different menu items, it's kind of narrowing that down to inhabitate within the space that we have. Now, I also want to be not just, quick for everybody, but I also want to be affordable. So I am going to be a very affordable price for people. I mean, my price points, just so you guys know, my pizzas are going to be $9.99. So they're going to be under $10, where you can come in with a couple people. We are also getting a liquor, a D1, D2, D3 liquor license. So you come in. The idea is to come in, order, have a pizza, have a salad. You can share salads. Have maybe a couple drinks, some wines, some cocktails, and things like that, and really go enjoy the rest of your day in an affordable manner. So that's another reason why I want to keep that price point. But in able to keep that price point, I'm really relying on to be able to maximize as much seating capacity as I'm able to get. Okay, to kind of touch on some of your questions, inside I'm going to have four top tables. And then I'm going to have 12 to 16 bar height stools that are going to go across the windows. So there's going to be some in the front window, in the inside. There's going to be some stools going across that there's going to be some seating. Also, the back window, guests are going to be able to enjoy the beautiful view of the falls while eating their pizza, looking right over, where those are going to be some stools. So it's not necessarily as like saying, oh, we have a party of 16. That maybe I'm not the right space for that, right? I'm more of that. You're coming in, you're walking around, you want to just enjoy something that's kind of quick. And really, when I was putting this plan together, I looked around Chagrin Falls and I really see what's happening and everything like that. And the peak time is going to be the patio season time. And with having only 30 seats, when I logistically went through the thing, it wouldn't work. And one of the things when I was speaking with Amy, she was discussing with me at the time, and this was in the summertime, about how we are leasing the village area for patio dining. And that really intrigued my interest for the space. I'll be honest with you, that's what kind of sold me. Because without that, I don't think I'd be going this far with the project. So the whole intent of this space was really to utilize that full front space for the patio dining. Because I really thought with that view and what we can bring to the city and everything like that, that I could make it work with the space we had based on that. So that's kind of where everything's been going. And, we're really excited. I mean, we've been doing massive work. The pizza oven's in there. I got to fire it up, and everything like that, which it's beautiful. You can smell. I don't know if anybody's passed by the past week. I've been firing it up every day. You have to season it. This oven you have to season for a whole week before you can even get it up to the right temperature. I could talk a whole day about this. So I know that's why we're not here. But it's really just about what we want to bring to the city. And really for me, for me to be, be able to do what I need to do with that space, the patio is a valuable, really something that I need to do to be successful in that space. Otherwise, it's going to really minimize what I can do and put me in a situation where I don't want to be put in. And I'll be honest with you, I've been in these situations before, where if things can't work, then it puts you in a tough spot. So that's really where we kind of are with these variances for the patio and everything. And I'm happy that the village worked with us with the new lease with the patio. So we really appreciate that. And we're just looking forward to getting open.
Awesome. Thank you. Jan, I see you have a question.
Yeah, Eddie, how much of your work do you anticipate takeout?
So there's definitely going to be, just as any restaurant right now has takeout, because, now we're kind of coming off of COVID, thankfully. But, just as any other restaurant, I'm going to have takeout as an option. So yeah, that will definitely be an option. But
do you have a projection of what percentage of your business will be that?
Well, so I've been doing some, research as far as what people are doing in the area. And a lot of the restaurant people I've been talking to, everyone gets takeout in Chagrin Falls. That does happen a lot, but during the nicer time of the year, people really are stressing on how important it is to have their patios because everybody wants to sit outside. And people are going to places that have patios because that's what people want to do. It's nice outside, you're in a beautiful area. So I would say during the summertime and the patio season, majority of my business is going to be people coming in, walking around. And then in the wintertime, you might have a little bit more of the delivery. And I'm not sorry, not delivery, but pickup or things like of that nature or online ordering. But that's just, I think that just goes with any business wherever you are.
Do
It
you
tends that
anticipate
more people come out in the summertime.
Do you anticipate 30%, 40%?
As far as carry out, I would say it's going to be less than 30% just based on what my actual, like I told you, I'm individual pizzas. So they're 9-inch pizzas.
I
So
understood
like,
that.
say you have like a party, like a family of 10. I mean, I might not be the perfect pizza place for you to go just because you're not going to be able to get a 30-inch pizza from me. I'm not offering that. Now, I'd be happy to make you 10 9-inch pizzas. I'm never going to turn away the business. But when you're looking logistically, what people will say you're having a pizza party with your family or something, you might go somewhere that is going to be able to offer you a sheet pan pizza or something like that. I'm not offering any of those.
All right, so Eddie, I'm going to ask this question again, and I didn't really get an answer earlier. Can you tell me, will you enclose the patio so you can use it year round?
So that was not in part of any of our plans to enclose the patio. That hasn't even been discussed, to be quite honest with you. So no, there's been nothing, there's been no conversation, there's been no planning for the enclosure of the patio, no. So that's the answer. The idea is for us to, once the patio season is over, is to have a fence that can come apart where, where you don't need to have the fence there all the ways. So then it would be closed down off season completely.
Yeah, can I intervene?
Yeah, please do, Dale.
Yeah, the lease that we have is only for outdoor use. So it could not be enclosed without the village agreeing to amend the lease.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Dale. I see, like I said, that's not even an issue that we've, not even an issue. That's not even a conversation that we've even discussed, me and Amy.
Okay.
We have a number of restaurants in town that have expanded their capacity by having
Okay. Do we have
outdoor
another?
closed.
Do we
But
have
I have another concern, Dale, as long as I could ask this. This is not part of the central shopping district?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
it is.
It is.
Yes.
Okay.
So Eddie, can you define what you mean by fast turnaround? How fast are you turning these tables over?
So I guess to kind of leave you with it, when I say fast, I mean, people can come in there and enjoy their experience as long as they want. But like I said, these pizzas cook in 60 to 90 seconds because they're cooked at 800 degrees. It's Naples style. So I guess when I say fast, it's, if you come in there and order, you might wait 10 minutes if we're really busy, but you're not waiting on 10 minutes in the oven for your pizza. There's 60, 90-minute pizzas. So if you're looking to be, in and out, we're going to be able to do that. And we're not multi-course. So when I say fast, a lot of sit-down restaurants, you're going to sit down, you're going to order your beverage, order a salad, order an appetizer. You're going to come in, you're going to get a pizza because that's what you're there for. That's really all I'm offering. And then if you want a salad to go with that, well, you're going to know that right away. And you would just order that with your pizza. And then if you want, and on your way out, if you want to grab some gelato, we're going to have that available for you as well. So when I say quick and fast, it's more not the multiple course.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, Andrew?
What?
Did that answer your question?
Not really. I mean, I was kind of looking, are you 30 minutes to flip a table? Are you an hour to flip a table? Are you?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Andrew, in our industry, that really comes to the customer. I'm never gonna rush any of my customers. If somebody wants to sit there for an hour and they're enjoying their experience and they're drinking and eating, they're gonna be allowed that time. But if somebody wants to come in and tells me, hey, we gotta leave in 10 minutes, we're gonna make that happen. So
All right.
if I had to give you an exact turnaround rate, I would say 20 to 25 minutes would be in that
Thank you.
ballpark. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I got a kind of another technical question.
Okay, one more and then we're going to go to Jordan. Go ahead.
Okay, but if somebody calls your restaurant and asks you, hey, I'm out front and there's no place to park, where are you going to tell them to park?
I think that's just gonna be like anybody else in Sharon Falls is, you're gonna have to, find some public parking, the meter parking. We have the meter parking across the street, the 15 spots. And that's just something that, just like any other business is gonna have to say. I mean,
All right.
there's no way around that.
Yep. Okay. Jordan, go ahead.
Thanks. And I don't mean to interrupt. I just wanted, while Eddie was talking about a couple of things. One, I think you said 60 to 90 minutes. I think you meant
Seconds.
60 to 90 seconds
Yes.
for your pizzas.
Thank you, Jordan.
Sure
Well
thing.
done.
Also,
Aaron?
I don't want to sound pessimistic, but you've talked about the kitchen facilities you have. I think I'm correct that that you are not going to have what I would call a full restaurant kitchen. Is that right?
That's correct. My actually only heating device is my pizza oven. I have a pizza oven, a pizza cooler, a prep sink. I have a register. I have a pizza mixer and a gelato machine. That's it. I mean, that's, and then obviously my 3-compartment sink for dishes and things like that.
So you have worked in and run other, what I'll call full service restaurants, right?
Yeah. Yes, I have. I've been indulged in full service restaurants with multi-course items, from independent restaurants that I've owned, from running hotels, running resorts, country clubs, from running banquets, doing banquets for thousands of people, for high class, up and down. I've pretty much done everything in the industry. And
so this is not a full service restaurant.
That's kind of what I was getting at. It's
Yeah.
a full service restaurant as far as we have sit down dining in that aspect, but it is not a full service as far as multi-course and things of that nature.
So given the size and the space constraints of this restaurant, is it possible for it to be turned into a full service restaurant?
Now, as far as multiple courses, no, not in my intentions. And the reason why I say that is
not just your intentions. I'm going to be a little
for
pessimistic
anybody.
here.
No.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't
the-
be able to get anything else in there. Like if you guys come to the space, it's packed. I wouldn't be able to put a deep fryer. I wouldn't be able to put an oven. I wouldn't be able to put a griddle top or a saute or a flat top or anything. It would not work for anybody, let alone me.
That's kind of my point here. One of
Yeah.
the things, obviously, that the village council is going to consider here is not just your use, because the variances here aren't specific to you, they're specific
That's
to the
correct.
building. And so one of the concerns that the council members may have is, okay, that's great. What happens if Eddie changes his vision, or heaven forbid, somebody else takes it over who has a different vision? Are they going to run a completely different operation? And from what you're saying, that's just not feasible in a building this size.
That's absolutely correct, Jordan. It is not feasible. So if I worded that wrong, one of the reasons why I'm just focusing on the pizza is because when we were planning this out, you have to make plans based on the space you're going into and what you can do and what makes the most sense. And that's kind of what we came up with.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Nancy, you had a couple questions?
Yeah, before Nancy goes, Aaron, I'm not able to raise my hand, so at some point I'd like to be acknowledged.
Okay, after Nancy,
yeah.
you're next.
Thank you.
So, some of the neighbors to your building have expressed concerns about the parking. The Chuck's building and the plaza owner did come to the BZA meeting and spoke. So how can you assure them that your customers are not going to be parking in their parking areas?
Well, when people come up and ask, can we park here? My answer is going to be no. But just like anybody, you know, I know all those places have private parking. So it is going to be just like if anybody was going anywhere. I'm physically, and I'm just being quite honest, not going to know if somebody is parked in Chuck's lot and is walked over. I'm not patrolling parking lots. Is the easiest way I can say it. So I guess the biggest thing is keeping those private property, no parking here unless you're coming here. And there may be times, that some of the property owners may have to tow a car. I mean, I hate to see that happen to anybody, but I can't patrol anybody's parking, just as if somebody could be parking there right now and we're not even open yet. That's not at Chuck's. I mean, I don't know. I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
So
All
I
right.
don't think I can have like an exact answer for that, except for I'm not going to be encouraging anybody to be parking there.
That makes
I'm
sense.
not going to say it's okay to park there. If the question's asked, I'm going to say, no, you cannot park there.
Okay,
That would be my response.
All right.
makes sense. Nancy, did you have another one?
No, that's good.
Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to ask answers to be a little brief once we get to the point of the question. First of all, I really appreciate everything the building owner has done, and I love seeing the building back in use again. It's a major component of that part of the village and our historic heritage. And it needs to be a viable business. I understand that, and I've got a very good feeling for all the passion and hard work and money you put into this. I'm going to talk a little bit on the village as a whole. We've heard everything about this business and what you need to make it go. We have a parking issue in this village. That's no big news. A lot of it is more of a walking issue than it is a parking issue. But I was really hoping to hear some kind of creative things to help mitigate it, so it doesn't get pushed on to other property owners, other business owners in the village. It's not fair to them. And I'd like to hear something creative, something that would promote, obviously enhance the traffic going to your restaurant, but promote different ways of getting there. I've got a couple ideas. I would like to see you put a bike rack in front of the building. Encourage people to ride their bikes to do takeout or dine in. I'd like to see maybe something about, getting people to use the Muni lot. I went to the Muni lot at around noon today, and there was 13 open spaces there. You do have to walk across the street, but it's not unreasonable. And then I'm concerned the response that I'm getting from existing property owners and about the impact that you're going to have on their business. I don't like to see that kind of conversation going, because we kind of just have people pointing fingers. I'd like to talk about some creative parking solutions, as opposed to just saying we got to have this number of seats to make it go.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, James. One thing is we were talking about, me and Amy, about a bike rack possibly being attached to the fence somehow. So that is something that we are working with our contractor. And we did actually talk about that at the last meeting.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you there a second. Putting the bike rack where? Against the fence?
Well, we're trying to find a place. That's what we're trying to find a place where we could put a bike rack. So we are discussing some of those things where options could be for that, because we did mention that in the BZA meeting last month. That is something that we would like to be looking into. And if you're telling me that's a good way to go, to tell guests that I can let them park in the municipal park, that, that's great. And I can let guests know that. So if those parking spots are there, absolutely, because that is public parking.
I guess what I'm hearing is that you really haven't thought this parking situation out. I mean,
No,
have
can
you
I?
just-
Yeah.
I have one more question, and you can speak up. Do you have any plans for where the employees are going to park when they're there for their shift?
Amy, you can answer if you want.
A little bit of this? I don't know how, okay, I guess I can raise my hand. Is it okay if I talk right
Oh,
now?
yeah, go ahead, Amy.
So the employees, okay, so a couple of things. So we have gone backwards and forwards with the parking. So a couple solutions. The bike rack option did come up in the BZA meeting, and we're looking at it thoroughly. The whole thing, we love the idea of multimodal transportation, trying to encourage biking. I was just, the other day, I went into the bagel place in the plaza, and there was, I don't know, 8, they look like professional bikers. There was like 8 people with their bikes there going into the bagel place. The whole multimodal, encouraging walking, encouraging biking, we were all about that. So that did come up in the BZA, and we are looking at sort of where we can make that integral to our space. And I would say that you can pretty much count on there'll be a bike rack if we can figure it out. The second thing is,
Go ahead.
the second thing is that in terms of the parking, so what's reasonably there is we've got the 15 metered spaces that have, and in talking to the plaza owner, she confirmed this, that those metered spaces aren't used that much. And I think some of the reasons why those aren't used is there's not a lot of, we've got the places across the street, past to present, White Magnolia, what's going into the corner where the hair salon is. I don't know about the corner on the hair salon, but the other two are very supportive because they feel like they don't get the walking traffic that the rest of the village gets. And they just have the metered parking in front. In addition, so the plaza owner was concerned mainly with the lunch hour. I met with the church up the street. It's across from Jason's hair salon. And they have their daytime spots are open, and they're willing to extend those spots to us. And if desired, we could put signage at the restaurant. Okay. In addition, so the 400-foot radius as written is walkable. If you look at, I think Jordan has a copy of what the 400-foot actual radius is versus a walkable radius, but you also have the orange lot on the other side of the river. You can see our building, and it's going to have lights in it. It's going to look interesting. So people that park over there, people that are all along that river walk, they don't even have to cross the street. They can just walk around the corner and come to the building. And that lot is, there's the radius. If it wasn't a walkable radius, that orange lot across the street, and it is the part that is on the riverside is very limited parking for the majority of the time. I'm not talking the exceptions when there's an art show or there's other things going on, but so we have, so that is definitely, that was something in my original plan as well. So solutions, multimodal, biking, walking, getting people to walk, looking at the church, and also the 15 spaces up Bell Road have the 15-minute bypass on it as well. So people can come, if they need to come for a short period of time, they can press the button, it's 15 minutes free, and then go into the building if they're gonna do a pickup. If they're gonna stay, there's options that are walkable that we are encouraging.
Amy, I'm on the parking commission, and we did a lot of studies in the village. And what really got us going on that was we were very excited about possibly having a grocery store return to the village. And the tenant really wanted to know that their parking space for their customers was going to be available to their customers at all time, or they weren't going to sign the lease. We spent a lot of time looking at the parking, and we came up with some spaces that we leased. The church we just mentioned was one, and we did a workaround that got everything kind of worked out. And it was a joint venture between the village, the property owner of the plaza, and Heinen's, and it's worked very well. It's a little bit of a delicate situation because it can get out of whack real easy with restaurants opening up in the village. And it's interesting to look at the parking situation on two different time frames. In the morning, it seems like the parking's pretty much concentrated around the south part of the village. The Muni lot fills up with workers. But in the evening, it's restaurants that fill it up. Starts at about 4 o'clock. Restaurant workers are showing up to go to work, and then the customers show up. The north side of town is pretty jammed up. The 15-minute parking you're talking about behind the hardware store, those things are pretty well filled up. M Italian, which is not in the central shopping district, had to come up with the parking plan, and they did one that works with the village. So I guess I'm a little disappointed talking about hearing you say we're talking with different people, or we've considered a bike rack, but we can't figure out where to put it. I would just like to see, in the interest of all these established businesses and restaurants, a little more concrete plan than talking and hoping and looking. That's my point. That's my point of view on this whole topic.
Okay.
Can I chime in here?
Yes, but before you do that, we are going to need to take comments from people in the audience who are watching us. And wait till Dale finishes his drink.
Understood. I just want to respond to Mr. Newell's specific comments if I could.
I know, but I want to start getting, people are going to need to raise their hand, and we'll need to start bringing people in a minute. So I'm going to give directions along that line. Dale, do we need people?
Sure, thanks.
Can we take anybody, or do I need to do this in order of people?
Well, I would say take those in favor of the application and then take those opposed.
Okay, so if you are on Zoom and would like to comment, Mr. Burns is going to issue a comment. You can use the raise your hand function in Zoom, and we will start bringing over members of the public into the hearing. You will need to be sworn in before you can speak. So we'll give you a couple seconds to do that while Mr. Burns finishes. Go ahead, Mr. Burns.
Thanks.
And then I have a question I'd like to ask too.
Okay, we have been at this for an hour, so I want to make sure we bring the public in, and then we'll have another chance to speak too. So go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, and I apologize for being
No, it's
verbose.
okay. Go ahead.
But I want to address the parking, the consideration of parking, because I don't want to leave an incorrect impression. There's been a great deal of thought that's been put into parking here. The reality is that the primary anticipated parking location for visitors to the restaurant, we anticipate, are going to be those 15 spaces that Amy referred to. When she was referring to the 15-minute parking, she was referring not to by the hardware store. We understand the north and south end of the village are jam-packed with cars, jam-packed with parkers. I'm going to plead guilty to being one of those guys who drives around for 10 minutes finding a parking space rather than parking 8 minutes away from where I'm going. But this part of the village, as Amy was explaining, is unique with respect to parking. The folks who are visiting shops in the shopping center, they're parking in the shopping center. They're not parking along Bell Street and walking around by and large. There are 3 storefronts that face Bell Street on the south side of the street. And those are the ones who Amy was talking to, who she's spoken with, and who have indicated they're supportive of the restaurant and understanding of the parking situation, because they want to see this area of the village activated. It's not activated the way Main Street is and the other areas. But a new active restaurant is likely to bring customers to them as well and make this a more active area. Amy, you took the pictures that I've got on the screen. I believe it was just this past Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And this is when I think you said there was an event at Chuck's going on as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is this is, a summer afternoon parking along Bell Street. So there's quite a number of spaces, and some of those spaces are 15-minute only, which suits the use of the restaurant nicely. In the evening, it is admittedly in Chagrin Falls, it's a free-for-all. And that's why the village has granted numerous variances for other sit-down, full-service restaurants in the heart of the busiest parts of the shopping district, notwithstanding those challenges, because that's what gives the village character. This is a different part of the village, though. This is a different part of the shopping district, and one that really is not suffering the way the other areas are, as evidenced by those photos. So I don't want to minimize what is considered here. With regard to parking at the church, of course, that's a viable option. It's also according to Google, a 580-foot walk. And so as a practical matter, asking people to pick up a pizza that takes a minute and a half to cook, but walk 580 feet each way is going to happen for some people, sure, but there's plenty of people who would rather drive around and look for parking spaces. With respect to the bike rack, again, I don't want to minimize that it's just something that's been thought of. There's some talk here about the constraints of the lot on which the building is located, and parking that's already in the front of it. And as anybody who listened in on the BZA's discussion knows, that those are parking spaces that may or may not conform given the right of way that comes right up to the edge there. And so putting a bike rack there, the challenge is that putting a bike rack there could interfere with parking cars in those spaces, which everybody wants to maintain. So it's not as simple as just committing to finding or to committing to installing a bike rack. It's got to be done in a manner that's safe, that's not going to put the bikers in the path of cars that are parking, and that doesn't interfere with the ability to park cars in the locations in those spaces, both year round, the spaces that are going to be year round spaces, and the spaces that in the months when there isn't outdoor dining in the front of the building are going to be available for cars. So it's something that I think you're hearing both Amy and Eddie say that they intend to do, but it's not as easy as just saying we'll put a bike rack there. That's the reality.
So can I go ahead and ask Angie to weigh in on the historical status of the parking on that portion of Bell Street? Because I think everybody sitting here, you probably drive by it the most. So I'd like to hear kind of what your comments are on that.
Me?
Yeah.
My comments as the token Bell Street resident. Yeah, no, those spots are not particularly busy. They are busy, obviously, when Chagrin Falls is busy with a big event. We did at one point, and I'm sure Jim, being in charge of the parking committee, will know we did at one point make those 8-hour parking strictly because they were not busy, and we knew we could put 8-hour parking there. I always wonder why we have metered parking there, just because it's an unusual place to have metered parking. I was glad that you reminded me, Jordan, that there is the 15-minute button. In speaking with a resident about this issue, they did say maybe the village could put up a sign or something and let people know that 15 minutes is free. They could push a button and go grab their pizza from across the street. I would really like to see us, not tonight's meeting because we're already an hour into it, but talk a little bit about how we could provide some parking relief in that area of town with our municipal spots.
Thank
and
you.
we'll say that for another conversation.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to move Chelsea Whitman Rush into the panel so she can address council. She has her hand raised. If anyone else who is in support of the applicants would like to raise their hand to speak, we can call on you after Chelsea. And then Chelsea, before you start speaking, Dale will need to swear you in.
Okay.
Are you all set? Can you hear us?
Oh, I can hear you. Can you not hear me?
We can hear you, yeah.
We can hear you. We don't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, it never works correctly, so.
Okay. All right. Could you raise your right hand for me, please?
Yeah, I can.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you'll give to the village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Chelsea.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment and I'll be brief. I think we need to recognize that it is not the responsibility of an individual business to solve the parking problem in Chagrin Falls. My family, we live at 49 West Washington Street. We live very close to the commercial part of town. I mean, I can hear the falls from my front yard, and there's a parking issue, but I don't want to deter small businesses from setting up shop in Chagrin Falls. We need the small businesses. They are the heart of our community. And my concern is that we have a business owner who has invested a great deal into the Mario Spa building, which is sat vacant for 10 to 15 years. And here we are handing them a problem that is a village-wide problem. And I just wanted to just address that. For food for thought, wanted to make the comment that I don't want to see this fall on any incoming small businesses. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else from the audience who wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, we will take members of the audience who are speaking opposed to the variances that are requested. It's always the fun part of Zoom meetings as we sit here and we see if anybody raises their hand. I'm not seeing any hands raised. Oh, wait, there we go. We have one. Christy, can you move Danny Raisin, please?
Doing so now.
Okay, thanks. Danny, before you begin speaking, Dale will need to swear you in. If you can let us know when you're able to speak, that helps.
Yeah, Danny needs time to mute himself.
Yes. Can you try your audio again, Danny?
There we go. Okay, can you raise your right hand for me, Danny?
I'm here.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you'll give to the village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Before I start, I know we've all been patient. We're going on about an hour and 22 minutes now. I know you have a time limit of 2 minutes, and I hope the clock hasn't already started, but, can you give me a little bit of leeway? I'm not represented on council. I chose not to go that direction.
The 2-minute time limit was a typo. Go ahead, just talk. But please address council. So.
Okay, great, thanks. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Danny Reyes. I've owned the Chuck's Beverage property for about 3.5 years, which basically goes from the eastern end of the Mario's building up almost adjacent. Jason's includes Chuck's Beverage, the office space above, the white garage between my property and the Mario's property, as well as the parking lot. We have about 11 off-street parking spaces that are private for us. So, I had this whole big presentation, and I'm just going to be really brief because we've heard a lot of testimony tonight. But let me just generally be brief and say a few things. This meeting tonight is going exactly the way that the Board of Zoning Appeals went as far as the applicant's testimony. And if you look at their application, which I reviewed, it's the same thing that they did on there. Their common themes are really appealing to the emotions. And yes, this is an emotional issue, but it also has to be a practical one. The emotions of, it's a beautiful property, it's a unique property. We put a lot of money into it. We've made the barn windows beautiful, and everybody loves it, and show the great pictures of the blacksmiths in the building from 150 years ago. That's true. Okay, we all have great stories to tell in Chagrin Falls. It's a wonderful community. And there's a lot of exciting, great stories that go back 150 years. I'm one of those people who decided to set up my business in Chagrin Falls. By the way, my office is upstairs, so this is my home away from home. And, that's great. We all love Chagrin Falls. We're all here. I'm rooting for the pizza business It's great that they put a lot of money into it and, you know, that it has a great history. But all that is really not relevant here. You know, we all have a great history here and we all are emotional about our properties. What's relevant here is the practicality of taking away parking spaces for the community and what's going to happen to that. And I think that, you know, the other thing that they talk about is that they, you know, self-admittedly in their application and tonight said, you know, they didn't know anything about this. They had no idea. That's one of their two big bases for why they should be granted this variance. Well, you know, I should say also that I look at this from another perspective because I'm a commercial real estate broker. And for the last 30 years, my specialties have been restaurant and retail real estate. Okay, so I've been in a lot of these council type meetings, planning commission, board of zoning appeals. I've done restaurant deals in multiple states, applied for variances myself, didn't always get, you know, sometimes got turned down, sometimes got approved, but you know, that's the way it goes. But, and I'm also a property owner. And, you know, they self-admittedly say they didn't know about the parking situation and what needed to go in here, et cetera. You know, that's absolutely, first of all, it's not relevant. And secondly, it's totally false. This is a matter of public record. Anybody can go and look up the zoning requirements, the parking requirements. Most sophisticated investors and people who sign leases when they go into a property or when they go to a restaurant, I know my clients, when we look for properties, which I've done for the last 30 years, one of the first things we do is we check the zoning code, we check what's allowed there, we check, you know, what variance we would need. And then we make an educated, informed decision as to whether or not we want to go into the space. A lot of times that answer is just, you know, we'd love to be there, but the answer is no, it just doesn't make sense. So this view that, you know, that they didn't know about the zoning codes, I think it's totally not relevant. So I want to talk about the parking because that's a big issue here. You know, we talk about back and forth, is this going to be a parking problem going forward? Well, I'm here to say, I'm down there. I'm the owner of the Chuck's Beverage Building. It's already been a problem. It's been a problem for the last 3.5 years since this owner has bought this building. I am constantly, more so in the last few months when they're under construction, but consistently having people parking on my property, taking up the spaces, or who I have an obligation to my customers and my employees. They're taking up their spaces. They're parking in my lot, on both sides of the building. And, you know, I have to tell you, Chuck's has been there for 75 years, 25 years with the current parking owner. I know that the current owner, I know he submitted a letter. I'm not sure if it's going to be read or not about the issues that he's had with people parking there, et cetera. But it's already been a problem. Not only that, but I had the other day, one of the Mario's Buildings contractors walking on the roof of my building. I looked out, I couldn't believe it. There's somebody on my building. I walked out, I said, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I thought it would just be easier to walk on to the Mario's," sorry, I keep referring it to the Mario's Building, you know what I mean. It would be easier to go onto the Mario's Building by walking onto your roof first, as opposed to, you know, getting a ladder out and, you know, doing whatever. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine the liability that exposes me to? I mean, it's crazy. You know, I have to tell you, I love Chagrin Falls. One of the great things I love about it is, you know, it's a family place. I grew up in a town in Columbus very similar to it. My wife and my two kids, who are 12 and 14, come down there a lot and visit me. It's our home away from home. I have to worry when I give my kids $10 to go to the popcorn shop when they're at my building and they say, "Dad, I want some ice cream." I'm worried when I have to give them $10 to go over to the popcorn shop, and they can't walk down the sidewalk from my building to Main Street because there are cars and construction people, not only who are covering the sidewalk, but they're covering the street. And my kids have, and me, if I want to go to Starbucks, I have to go into the street and make sure nobody's driving down the street. I mean, that is a serious problem. Listen, I don't have to remind you that we had one tragedy already in Chagrin Falls with a young child getting killed. You know, this is something that is personal to me. And I want to respond a little bit to some of the
Hey,
things.
Danny, this is the meeting moderator. I'd like to let you know that your time has been at nearly 7 minutes. And I wonder if you could wrap up your comments so that we could take
Okay.
other comments from the public.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I want to address some of the things that the applicant's attorney talked about. You know, he said that, you know, there was no other tenant that could possibly go into this building, okay? You know, with all due respect, I've been doing restaurant and retail leasing for 30 years, okay? And believe me, there's other tenants that can go into the building. The owner never even put up a for lease sign in front of that building. They never assigned it to a broker. Let me say this in closing,
I'm not sure
okay?
that's relevant.
Pardon me?
I'm not sure your argument about this, the only tenant is relevant because we're talking about parking variances.
Yeah, but they're saying that they need these parking variances because no other tenant could possibly go
So
into the
finish-
building. So
Finish your
okay,
last statement and then I have a question for you.
I'll finish up. I want to say that I want to make it very clear that there's more than one issue here. There is the issue of the patio that was granted a few years ago to the side of the building, to the west of the building, and there is the patio in front that they want to expand even further. Those are two separate issues. You can grant one and not the other. My opposition is for the spaces that are in front because this sets a bad precedent for the village. You know, listen, we can debate all day long if there's a parking problem. You guys live here, you know the parking. It's a bad precedent, in my opinion, for the village to start taking away parking, okay, for businesses that have not even shown a way how they're going to solve, you know, how they're going to accommodate their parking. And I think that this is a great time, quite frankly, for the village to either hire a consultant or put a moratorium on taking away more parking for especially for the restaurants, and say, hey, let's sit back, let's hire a consultant, let's address the whole overall issue moving forward, because the problem is not going to get any better. The problem is only going to get worse, especially if
Thank you,
keep
Dan.
panicking.
I think we got to cut you off. This is getting long.
I have a question for him though, Jim. Danny,
Yeah.
you said as part of your thing, well, first of all, the reason we can't read the letter from the owner of Chuck's is because it's a public hearing and people have to be here for the right for the applicants to cross-examine anybody testifying against them. So we can't read letters here. You said that right now you have issues with your kids walking down the sidewalk because of people parking in front of the building and them taking up the sidewalk space while they're parked there. I guess for me, then why should we even allow anybody to park anywhere in front of that building if we're already seeing trucks blocking the pedestrian right of way? Like maybe there shouldn't be parking there. And I mean, you know what I mean? So like, what's that line for you? Because I feel like you have a very defined thought on this.
I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, you're telling me that right now trucks are already blocking the sidewalk and pedestrian passage in front of 13 Bell.
Yes, I have a picture.
And then I
Bob
don't need
Jamieson-
pictures. No, I don't need
Bob
pictures.
Jameson said that he would.
Wait,
put it
let
up
her
in my
ask you the
presentation.
question.
Come on, I'm trying to ask you a question. Like you're telling me that the trucks are already blocking the sidewalks. They're
Absolutely.
saying
They
wanna
were
get rid of-
today.
They're telling
were
us they want to
today.
get rid of a parking space to have a couple more tables. But you're also telling me that you don't want them to get rid of it because you want them to have the parking spaces in front. At the same time, you're telling me those parking spaces in front are already a pedestrian issue because pedestrians can't walk there while there's vehicles there.
Well, listen, if you look at the tape of the Board of Zoning Appeals,
I
I
did.
asked Dale Markowitz repeatedly, and I think Councilman Rocky did as well. You know, go out there and measure those spaces. They're not parking spots. I don't think they should be parking there at all. But you guys, you know, and Dale contends that they're actually spaces. I don't think they are. I really don't. Do you ever go? Have you been over there? Can you look? Can Rob? You promised you put up the picture, but you know you can't. Cars today, they were putting the bricks in. There were two cars that were virtually you couldn't pass. How are people so, and I think there are council people here who are on the sidewalk commission. How can you justify allowing people to continue to even park there? I don't think there should be either, to be honest. I really don't. The answer to your question is, I don't think there should be parking there because they're not parking spaces, and I don't think there should be a patio there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Reyes? Okay. Do we have anyone else interested in speaking in opposition to the variances? Okay. Oh, wait, here we go. Donna. Christy, can you have Donna in?
I can. Donna is a call-in listener, so give me a moment, Donna. As you recall, you can press pound *6 in order to unmute yourself. I've given you the option to speak. If you can press *6, perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Donna, let me swear you in, please. Hopefully you're not driving and holding the phone in the other hand.
No, I'm not. I'm sitting in a
Okay.
in a recliner, actually.
Right. So you'll raise your right hand for me and do you solemnly swear that the testimony you'll give to village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, first, let me preface everything I'm going to say by saying that I am not against this. I realize it will happen. I am standing in representation of my tenants in the plaza, and the issue with me is the lunch hour traffic. And I did indicate that to Amy, and we've had several conversations. And my appeal is going to be to the village as a whole. Let's be a little proactive. If we're going to allow these establishments in, let's be a little proactive in finding a solution. I'm not exactly sure what that is. There has been talk about possibly doing valet services for different areas of town, maybe just this section of town, since the north end seems to have everything under control. And give it a try. My concern is not only with Amy's and Eddie's venture, but Pub Fredo. I said this at the zoning board too. Once that opens, that's going to totally exacerbate the plaza lot, specifically during the lunch hour traffic. And I made my concerns at that meeting, and one of the members made a tongue-in-cheek comment saying, well, we've had that problem, we've dealt with it in the past, but as a landlord, I would rather not have to deal with angry tenants and, the phone calls because their customers can't find the space for 4 hours, throughout the day. So I realize that this will happen. Hopefully, there will be considerations taken by Amy and Eddie, thinking of all the other businesses. And yes, this should have been done, much earlier on in their venture, not at the end of the deal here. But, like I said before, and I'll say it again, and every time we have a situation like this, my responsibility is to my tenants and the people who pay for the use of that parking lot. And it is critical to the vitality of the village, but it's critical foremost to my tenants. And I guess that's it without going on too long.
Thanks, Donna. Do we have any questions for Donna? I don't see any questions for you, Donna. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Do we have anyone else who wishes to speak? You can use the raise your hand function. I'm not seeing anybody.
I'm trying to raise my hand, but I'm not smart.
No, I meant people who weren't already on here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Give me 1 second to make sure our friends
No, go ahead. Yeah.
out in the internet world. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not seeing any hands raised. So
No, ma'am.
with council, let's discuss. Jim, you're chomping at the bit. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, it's I kind of want to respond to the help me, I forgot her first name. Not Donna.
Amy.
The one on West Washington Street.
Chelsea.
Chelsea. Thank you. You know, I don't want to have the village knock out anybody that's moving in here. I want to see this thrive. But to Donna's point and to my point earlier, at some point, we just got to go, we can't put more of an impact on the existing businesses, particularly the restaurants. Barb had a pretty good, the op-ed piece in the Chagrin Valley Times last week talked about the restaurants. There's 18 restaurants in the village. And, you know, I would like to see everybody get along. It requires getting along because we're going to have to share parking. And I just like to see more of an effort. I personally do not like the idea of having the seating in front of Italia. I guess that's only eliminating 2 parking spaces in the variance request. But I think that's a show of compromise and cooperation with the surrounding businesses. And then I'd like to see a bike rack. There might be an option of talking with the village about a bike rack in the park along the river. But I'd like to see more done than just saying, well, it's going to be quick in and out and we need all these outdoor seatings for it to be a viable business. That's my comment.
So I'd like to make a comment along the same line. And my biggest thing is that when we see people who apply for these variances, I like to see them try to, you know, is this variance substantial? I like to see people try to make as minimal impact with their variance as possible. And my biggest concern with this one is the fact that we are taking away 2 parking areas to grant them 4 more seats when they're already asking for what would be a variance of 14 parking spaces, right? So you're taking away more and having to ask for even more. So I really look for people to try to make this as small as an impact as possible. And kind of that's I always see that as the hallmark of a good variance submission. When you can say that I've done everything I possibly can do to try to mitigate the request.
Jan, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to agree with Jim Newell. I appreciate his comments and I am concerned about both Chuck's and the plaza. And I welcome this business into town. I would like them to do well. I will certainly patronize them. But I think they need a couple parking places in front so that people can go in and get their takeout, take it home if they want. And I'm against the patio seating in the front. I'm all in favor of it by the side.
Okay, sorry. So many hands went up. Give me a moment. Angie, why don't you go ahead?
I'm going to just make a quick comment on something, and it's something that you addressed, Aaron, but I would just like to add my voice to your comment that those, and to Mr. Reyes' comment, that the parking spaces that currently exist in the front of the building are already unsafe. They do block the sidewalk. That's something that we've had comments on through Safe Routes and things along those natures of people walking on that side of the sidewalk before. So I'm not sure that they are parking spaces we'd want to maintain. And that's my opinion on this.
Okay. Amy, go ahead.
In discussions with the police chief, whether we have the patio in the front or not, if there is a patio, if the western lot is used as a patio, she says no parking will happen in the front of the building. We can put benches there. That was what was originally drawn with the original owners as well. But she said no parking. So our thought is, why not put the tables? Because there's no parking anyway. With the patio in use, the west patio.
Okay, so.
I think there's a safety issue there because they're so close to the street. I just don't think they should be there. Whether there's parking or not.
Parking spaces are restaurant goers. Jan, you said you don't think they should be there.
I think that there's a safety problem with the table seating outside in front of the restaurant because it is so close to the street.
Thank you. I agree with that.
Can we
How-
hear Chief Dasek's comments, because she is on this meeting?
I know. If she wants to come in, there she is. I assume she
Yeah.
would unmute. So go ahead, Amber.
So I was asked the question of whether that dining area could be done safely. And my comments at the last meeting were, there's no 100% safe way to do it there because there's no curb and there's an intersection right across the street going into the plaza. Having said that, you could mitigate a lot of the risk by putting in concrete bollards. We talked about doing a protective fence and some decorative like concrete flower pots. But in so putting those in with the purpose of protecting the patio area, you would not be able to park a car there because it would be hanging out into the street. So my comments were, yes, the patio could have some safety features added in to make it a viable option, but it wouldn't be safe to park a car there because there again, it's going to hang out, and or if somebody hits the gas instead of the brake, you're going to have a serious issue. So in my opinion, you can't park cars in front of the patio safely, which then eliminates those two spots.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to look at maps while we talk about this, so I'm paying
Well,
attention to all the things.
Just to kind of touch on Angie's comment, I did go over and measure that, and by
So
regulation,
what do you mean by that? Measure what?
I measured the area. So basically, I measured from the edge of the curb to where those concrete and metal posts are, and you have 23 feet. So you technically, by ODOT spec, have enough space to continue the sidewalk and have a 19-foot parking space, a 19 by 9 parking space, which matches pretty much all of the other village parking spots. I ran around and measured a bunch of them in the municipal lot and the ones over by Village Hall. The ones by Village Hall are actually like 17 by 8. They're actually a little bit even smaller than what ODOT would recommend for the state of Ohio.
Thank you.
Okay.
Andrew.
Okay, any other comments? I
If I
guess,
could. Jordan Burns here.
go ahead, Jordan.
Thanks. I guess I want to be clear. We hear everything that's being said here, and you know, I think you heard it from the earlier comments from Mr. Ruiz that the presence of parking spaces in the front of this building are a challenge. Whether they're large enough for a car to park or not, they're still head-in parking spaces. That means they have to back out essentially right on to Bell, and so they're a challenge. We're not anxious to eliminate parking spaces. I want to dispel the notion that we're looking for more opportunities to eliminate spaces and increase seating. It really is what Amy said a moment ago, and what you just heard from the chief, that to have the outdoor seating is to do something that interferes with the ability to have those parking spaces in operation during the months that the outdoor seating on the village parcel is in place. And our thought was it made sense with the barriers that were just described to have seating there. If on the other hand, it's the consensus of council that you'd rather not have those there, either and simply have the barriers that were described, we're not sure we understand the wisdom behind that, but whoever among the council members said that these are separate, they are separate. One is whether we can be relieved from, get a variance from the parking requirements with respect to the parcel we're renting from the village for the purpose of patio dining, because there's no way to put parking spaces anywhere on this property to support that, which I'm going to continue to maintain. I don't remember when this came up before the village in 2012, but I'd like to think that somebody gave a moment's thought to the fact that implicit in that was there's not going to be on-site parking for that. And that was going to be acceptable. The other is these parking spaces in the front of the building. It's a different situation, but you've heard why we're proposing it. Leaving the spaces in place while there's outdoor patio seating on the village parcel is unworkable. There's a way to put barriers that protect those outdoor diners, and doing that in effect creates both creates a space that's safe for a couple of extra tables, and frankly creates a safer, more attractive area here. That's not the overriding concern, but it's a fact. Having a couple of tables at the front makes Bell Street a little bit more attractive. This part of it a little bit more attractive than cars parked head in, and that's a factor here. So we understand if you want to look at them separately, but we do think in either instance there's good reason for granting the variances on both fronts.
Okay. Nancy, did you have something?
No.
Okay. Any other comments? I think we need to break this down and start moving forward towards some resolutions here because it's almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
It is.
Yeah.
So I know BZA had one very long motion. I think we need to break this out into multiple motions, looking at different variances. Variances, did I say that correctly? I'm feeling a little tired.
Yeah. And I can offer.
Why don't you offer a motion, Nancy?
A motion?
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Nancy. Yes, go.
Is that okay?
Yes, please. I'm asking you
Okay.
to make your motion.
Okay. A motion to grant the variance to section 113805A2 to approve a 0 lot line setback from the required front yard area in the 2 existing parking spaces in the front facing south portion of the building to be used for outdoor patio dining area from May through September each year. That section of the planning and zoning requires that outdoor service be limited to seating areas which are not located in setbacks. The terms of the lease for the village-owned parcel located next to 13 Bell Street provide in part that the premises may be used as an outdoor patio dining area. A 0 lot line setback is necessary to accommodate the outdoor patio dining area. So planning and zoning already.
Should we get a second on that real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion by Rogoff, second by Rocky. We're gonna have discussion now. Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay. Planning and Zoning Commission approved a 0 lot line setback for that entire parcel. What we're seeing, well, not the whole red part, but if you extended the line, the perpendicular line to the street down, that whole parcel is 0 lot line setback. Now, apparently one of the parking spaces is in that area. So that area already has eliminated the parking space and has a 0 lot line setback.
Okay.
So the only section that we're considering here is the area between that line, that perpendicular line, and about the center of the building where those other 2 parking spaces are.
Okay.
So a 0 lot line setback for that space.
Okay, any discussion on this?
So this motion is directly addressing just the village leased piece of property, correct?
No.
No.
The village leased property already has a 0 lot line setback
Okay.
by permission of planning and zoning, which was permitted to opine on that. Because it's a park district and not central shopping district. So it was something that planning and zoning was permitted to do under the zoning code.
So what was your motion again, Nancy? I mean,
To
real
grant-
briefly, not the whole
To
thing.
grant, to grant a zero lot line section, a zero lot line setback for the section in front of the building. So now there's that red line going down there. So
Got
to that red line about to where say the front door of the building is. Where the other 2 parking spaces are that are in question.
So are you allowing the outdoor dining in front of the building
That's what the motion is.
to allow it?
Yes.
Okay,
In the area highlighted in the green line on the screen.
got it.
So it's the area of the 2 parking spaces. 2 of the 3.
And did we include I'm sorry, I think I'm tired. Did we include language requiring bollards? Or do we not have to do that? Can the chief require that for the permit?
Well, I actually had bollards in another motion, but so that area is, for one thing, is going to be very difficult to park in, to pull a car into that area across the sidewalk. And there's going to be a fence then along where that red line is that is not there now, but there will be a fence there to protect the patio area that's already been approved. Part of the discussion in that was that they would have bollards all around that patio, the patio area that's leased from the village. There will be bollards, fencing, some sort of protection. The chief talked about that at planning and zoning. We leave that in her hands to decide, what's going to be required in terms of bollards, fencing to protect the public from traffic. Not only people parking there, but people driving by. The street traffic is, I don't know, maybe 3-4 feet away from the outer edge of that, because that outer edge is on the right of way. So there will be bollards across there. And if this is approved for outdoor seating, that area will have bollards also.
Okay. Are we ready to vote? Any discussion?
Can I just ask a quick question? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Thank you. Nancy, you mentioned May through September. I'm an October birthday person, so I'm always acutely aware of the weather then and hoping for an 80-degree birthday. The lease with the village provides, weather permitting. And that's kind of what we were anticipating here as well, that it could be May to September, but it could be April. The weather permits. It could be into October or even November, the weather permits. So I just want to at least raise that question.
First of all, I think that's kind of a vague standard for a variance personally. Their application only requested 4 months, as I recall, in several different sections. They mentioned 4 months. This will be 5 months. In addition to that, they were talking about putting bollards and then taking the bollards away in the other months. So, it's going to be not reasonable to put those up, randomly at some undetermined specific time. So I think it's important to have a date, a period of time certain.
And who shovels or who does the snow removal on that sidewalk there? Rob, does the village handle that?
Property owner.
No, we do the village property sidewalks only.
But even on that leased piece of property?
It's a 10-foot area. I mean, I've never got that detail with it, but I mean, I know we do in front of Bell Street Park. So if we go 12 foot past that or whatever, that's fine.
And I've seen snow in October.
Any other questions, comments, discussion, or should we move to vote?
Roll call.
Okay. Let's do the roll call, please.
Evans,
I vote no.
Grube,
Yes.
Newell,
I'm going to vote no, not in that I'm against the concept of the business, but I'm disappointed with the way the whole thing has been presented to the village and how parking has been addressed prior to this meeting.
Rocky,
I'm going to vote no for all the reasons stated.
Rogoff,
I haven't counted the votes, but I'm going to vote yes. I have very, very serious concerns about all these parking spaces in front of this particular piece of property. I've walked over there and looked at it several times, and the cars, smallish cars even, extend out into the sidewalk. Some of the bigger behemoths that people drive these days, extend further out than that. And there are concerns about pulling in and out. There are concerns about having a sidewalk there that people can't use because the cars are extending into the sidewalk. So I will vote yes for this.
DiBernardo,
I'm going to vote yes as well.
So Dale, what happens when there is a tie? Does that uphold the BZA decision? Since you didn't ask in advance.
I'm going to look in chapter 1111 here. I know that in the Board of Zoning Appeals, it says if it's a tie, it loses. But that's not the same issue as here. So give me a minute to pull that up.
Oh, darn you, Darren.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same. Let's see. Okay, so here's the dilemma. 1111.10E says after reviewing the Board of Zoning Appeals decision, council may affirm and modify, or reverse the decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals by a majority vote of all of its members. So we don't. So we don't have a majority to affirm.
But we don't have a majority to deny either.
Well, nobody made that motion yet, but I assume the vote will be the same.
So does that mean the BZA stands? Since we can't decide? Should we keep going while you ponder this deep legal question of the evening?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Nancy, I suspect you might have another motion since we have other
I-
variances before us.
I do.
Okay, have at it, my friend.
Okay, so a motion to grant a variance to section 114102A2 to allow the applicant to use the property for indoor and seasonal outdoor dining without the requirement to provide 16 additional parking spaces otherwise required by the additional outdoor seating on the applicant's property. Let's see. That code section requires that parking be provided for the additional seating capacity on the outdoor patio dining area of the leased patio.
But it would still permit the dining in front of the building?
No, this is just for parking spaces that they need for the additional patio dining. For the patio dining. The lease permits outdoor patio dining on that leased space, which is the larger red box.
Right.
On the map that you're looking at. The code provides that an existing building or use which does not conform to parking requirements may provide the location of additional parking spaces to those within 400 feet walking distance of the premises. Because the outdoor patio dining is seasonal May through September, the additional 16 parking spaces are required for a limited time period. The municipal lot, as well as the metered spaces on Bell Street, can provide the additional parking needed for the outdoor patio dining area.
And I believe Angie seconded that. So we have a motion by Rogoff with a second by DiBernardo. Okay, discussion. Is everyone clear on what the motion is?
Let's paraphrase it so everybody understands. Nancy, you're saying that, go ahead, I'm sorry.
They need an additional 16 parking spaces because of the leased patio area. That's an additional space to the building. And so because it's being added, they need to provide parking for those added spaces. But the spaces are added pursuant to a lease that they signed with the village. That lease has been in effect for about almost 10 years. And the lease specifically provides for that space to be, that outdoor concrete patio to be used for outdoor dining. And so because the lease permits that, I think that it also implies that the extra parking spaces that would otherwise be required by the code could be provided in the municipal parking lot or in other spaces, the metered spaces along Bell Street or other spaces available throughout the village.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead, Jen.
So this has nothing to do, this is only about parking. It has nothing to do with the dining, outdoor dining in front of the building.
Right, it's
Correct.
just parking generally.
Correct. I got it.
That is required, yeah.
Thank you.
So my take on this one is that the village leased this after a referendum that passed the voters. And at the time of that referendum, we didn't have, like, we've changed our zoning since then in 2019 with that awesome 200-page document we got. And when we did that, you know, an expansion of a use then needed this additional parking plan. Nancy, feel free to yell at me if I'm saying this incorrectly or missaying it.
Yeah.
So for me, in my head, it's still, you know, 2011, where they had permission to do this. They would not have had to expand parking because of the way the zoning code read at the time. So I feel like as an elected official, like, we may be sitting here 10 years later, but I feel like we need to hold the requests of the village and the voters at the forefront.
Yeah.
But if we are just talking about the village, the land that the village is leasing, we're technically 2 parking spots over the required number, because based on square footage, it would be 14. So we are technically 2 over. If we're just talking that, but if we're looking at both parcels and the building as a whole with that outside dining area on the front, they need those 16.
Yeah, and I guess I combined them. I think I'm not sure that anybody really thought much about parking when this lease was entered into 10 years ago. I think that the fact that the lease specifically says that this area is to be used for outdoor dining, that we're almost obligated to provide, to give them a variance for parking.
May I
Again,
say something?
I think that some of those parking spaces in front, I think they're kind of minimally okay for parking. You know, they're on the small side. They do stick out. The cars stick out over the sidewalk. And yeah, so.
Okay, Jim, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Rocky brought up a point that I was going to bring up. Excuse me, Andrew, I should be calling you by your first name. The lease area, we agreed to let it be outdoor seating, and parking was, you know, kind of given as that would be part of it. But it does not include the seating directly in front of the building. And I'm not willing to combine that lease agreement with the additional seating that they're asking for.
Okay, then I'll modify the motion to make it 14 additional spaces, otherwise required.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so the motion has been amended by Rogoff, seconded by Rocky. We're voting on the amending of the motion from 16 parking spaces to 14 parking spaces. Roll call, please.
I asked for
Oh, wait.
clarification.
Hold on.
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
just want to ask for clarification.
Yep.
The intent of the motion, so it's clear to everybody, is that if it passes, then those two tops would not meet the required parking spaces, and those two or four other seats would have to be eliminated somewhere.
Or we'd have to give them a second motion. We'd have to have another motion to include those.
They'd have to be held in their own motion.
Okay,
Because we're just looking at the 14 that are required by the park parcel.
okay.
We're all clear, right? Okay. So we're just voting on amending the motion at this point.
Well, we didn't vote on the motion, so
But we have to vote to amend the motion, don't we?
You can just do a new motion. couldn't you?
Yeah, it was seconded, so you have to,
Yeah, we have to do
Vote
the
to amend it. Okay.
right.
We're voting to amend the motion from 16 parking spaces to 14 parking spaces. Roll call, please.
Grube,
Yes.
Newell,
Yes.
Rocky,
Yes.
Rogoff,
yes,
DiBernardo,
Yes.
Evans.
yes,
And that passes. Okay, so now the motion is to allow the indoor and seasonal dining without the requirement to provide 14 additional parking spaces. Okay,
So it's already that, does that
It-
motion already stand or?
and that motion now stands. Do we have any discussion on the 14 parking spaces? Okay, are we ready for a motion on this, my friends? It looks like it. Let's do roll call.
Newell,
Yes.
Rocky,
Yes.
Rogoff,
yes,
Wyval, or no, sorry, DiBernardo,
Yes.
DiBernardo,
Yes. Yes.
Evans,
yes,
and Grube.
Yes, that also passes. Okay.
Mr.
Dale,
Law Director, where are
Do
we?
you know anything about the first motion yet, Dale? Are you still reading?
Well, 111106 says the exact same thing, that it takes a majority to either affirm or reverse. This may take some research beyond tonight. The presumption normally is that in the case of a tie vote, the decision of the lower body remains in effect. But I want to research that to make sure that there isn't some case out there that may give us some guidance. This is an unusual situation that we're dealing with here. But
Well, we're happy to bring you unusual situations here. in Chicago Falls.
what I'm hoping is that you might consider doing that motion that was on a tie vote again, in light of the fact that this motion for 14 has been granted, to see whether there might be a change in the vote.
Okay. Maybe
don't
we should
know if-
save that for a little bit later. Let's do
Yes.
our other variances and then we can circle back to 11380582. Okay. Nancy, are you still in a motioning sort of mood?
sure. Okay, so this is the third motion. So the first and the second, this third one, they are area variances, and an area variance is granted based on practical difficulties. So we could summarize that, and I'll make this motion and then we'll summarize the practical difficulties that apply to them. So this third one is a motion to grant a variance to section 114103A and permit the parking spaces in front south-facing side of the 13 Bell Street building to be used for an outdoor patio dining area on the property from May through September each year. 114103A of the Planning and Zoning Code requires that parking for the use of a building shall continue unobstructed in operation and shall not be reduced unless another approved location in accordance with the Planning and Zoning Code be provided. Well, there were 3 spaces, but the 2 that are in front of the building that'll be discontinued. The third one is in the park area. So the 3 that'll be discontinued, I don't know, I think it's only 2 that'll be discontinued. For the purpose of outdoor dining, from May through September each year and will be returned to parking use during the rest of the year. The outdoor dining is near Bell Street, so accommodating safety issues require the discontinuance of the 2 parking spaces to provide an area for bollards along Bell Street frontage area.
Okay, give us the fun summary. Okay, motion by Rogoff, second by DiBernardo. Nancy, can you give us your fun summaries?
Well, the application was for to discontinue 3 parking spaces. There are 2 of those spaces are right in front of the building. The 3rd space is kind of would be to the south that actually is in the leased parking area of the leased area from the village. So, I mean, I question whether that was even a 3rd parking space, but that's the motion is to the original statement, the zoning review letter said that there were 3 parking spaces to be discontinued. So that's what the motion is, to discontinue all 3 of them, even though I believe that the 3rd one is discontinued anyway because of the lease and because planning and zoning approved that
Zero lot
the
line.
zero lot line there.
Yep. Okay. Conversation, my friends.
So are we allowed to, I mean, Nancy kind of stated it in the motion that it's really only 2 parking spots. Are we allowed to make it as in 2 parking spots because we've already granted the, oh, that was just the parking variance, but can we make it 2 instead of 3 because of the lease agreement?
Well,
Is it cleaner to leave it at 3?
I think so. That's why I
Yeah.
what I'm
agree.
asking.
Yeah.
Just any discussion?
Aaron, this is the meeting moderator. I moved Jordan Burns into the waiting room. He does have a hand raised. Are you willing to take any extra comments or at this point or no?
Guys, how do you feel? Dale, do I need to do this?
You do not legally need to do it.
Jordan, it looks like you self-lowered your hand. If you have an existing question, I see your hand raised again. Thank you. So the question stands, Aaron.
Okay. Are you guys okay if we let him come in once? Jordan, but we can't answer your question about what happens for the first motion. So you can't ask that question. But you
And
can,
we're going to ask you to be brief.
yes, and we'll ask you to be brief. So ask something other than that, please, briefly. You can move them in, Christy.
I'm in the process of doing so.
Perfect. I didn't know if it was unclear. Go ahead, Jordan.
With regard to the pending motion, I don't want to be repetitive, but here the lease expressly provides for the use of the outdoor patio area on the village-owned property, weather permitting. And so now same sort of issue with regard to the elimination of parking, because weather may permit in months other than May through September. And so the effect of requiring the parking October through April is to either interfere with the ability to use the outdoor area when the weather may permit, or create a hazard that I don't think anybody is intending to create, that would exist if the parking was maintained there. So I just ask that you give some consideration to making the language consistent with the lease, which is weather permitting.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody want to, do you want to change the motion? Are we happy with the May through
There is,
September?
although the review letters stated 3 parking spaces, only one of them is in the leased area. The other 2 are not in the leased area.
He's talking more about outdoor dining during
Right.
season.
I think he was referring more specifically to the 1 parking space that is in the leased area.
I'm actually referring to all of them because my understanding is that there's some concern about allowing for the head-in parking even in front of the building, just because it's so close to the outdoor patio area on the village property. I may misunderstand, but that's what I thought I heard earlier, that was a concern.
Right, but the lease doesn't cover those 2 spaces in front anyway. The lease does not cover that. So the lease only covers the parcel that has maybe 1 space in it. To my mind, it's questionable that it was ever a parking space because it's park.
I agree, Nancy.
We don't allow parking in the park, and plus there's, so.
Yeah, again, I'm not concerned about parking in that area, in the park area. I'm concerned that because of the effect of limiting the months that parking isn't required is to require us to allow parking in the other months. And I'm just worried that allowing the parking or requiring the parking in those other months, it could create a hazard while the patio area is still in use because the weather permits, say in October.
But again, the other motion was May through September. I think it's important to have a specific time period. I think, weather permitting, I mean, you could have a nice day in January possibly that you would go outside. So I think, if that becomes an issue, I think they can come back and talk about extending the time period. But again, they asked for 4 months in their application. And this is a 5-month period. I think it's sufficient. This is kind of it's a new situation all around, particularly the lease of the park property that will be in effect now. It hasn't been thus far. So I think it's important that a variance have a date certain and not, be arguing over whether the weather is permitting or not permitting. And, from one day to the next, you might have some nice days and then some bad days. And this is going to have to be protected by bollards. So they're going to have to be put up and taken down. And you're not going to do that, a couple days here and a couple days there.
Okay, Jan, you had a question?
The lease does say weather permitting, and we specifically made that change because there were times in April and March, and there have been January days that have been 65. And I think we should be consistent with the lease. And I remember making that change because it was requested by the restaurateurs in town.
Yeah, I don't have the lease in front of me this minute. I don't recall that in the lease language of the current lease. And
for simplicity,
it was
I assume that
I forget the language that
I've got the lease in front of me. I've got the lease in front of me, and what it says is tenant shall use the premises during the lease term as an outdoor patio dining area, may be operated. I'd put a sick there. May be operated on any day that the weather permits such operation during each year during the lease term.
Okay, so.
Well, again, I would say that there probably was not consideration given to the whole parking issue, but that area is going to need, if it's to be used as patio dining, which the lease provides. Right now, it is completely open. That whole front area where that red line is open. There are going to have to be bollards or fencing or some sort of safety features there to be able to use that. And you can't put them there and take them away randomly because there's a nice day here and there. I'm assuming that they're going to be fairly solid structures.
But is that incumbent on us, or is that incumbent on the property owner to decide that they're going to open those tables or not? I don't want to overstep here.
Well,
make sure we follow the lease. Just food for thought, like.
Maybe the lease wasn't as well thought out in those terms as it should have been. but I feel like a variance needs to have a set time limit.
And if we're gonna be requiring them to have the ballards, if we don't specify a time frame, they're just gonna stay there the whole time. They'll just go up and never come down.
Correct.
Question, does anyone need a 5-minute
Potty
stand,
break?
stretch, go to the bathroom break? We have been here for 2.5 hours and I would like to be cognizant of anyone's personal needs.
Can we just move this along?
We can do that, but I wanted to ask first so that I wasn't.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. We will continue to press onward, my friends. Okay, so help me out here, someone. I'm sorry, my brain's frying here because it's my bedtime.
I think maybe, well, I think maybe we call the question on this one.
Yes.
Okay, let's call the question. Let's vote. And do you want to reiterate what we're voting for real quick here, my friends?
Yes.
Okay, so we are voting. Nancy, I'm gonna have to. My
This
head
is,
is fried.
yeah, this is the motion to discontinue the parking spaces in front of the building,
Okay, May through September.
May through September, right?
Okay, roll call.
Rocky,
No,
Rogoff,
Yes,
DiBernardo,
Yes.
Evans,
No,
Grube,
I'm gonna vote yes, but I would also support this on if it were made with nice weather days in the language as well. I'm not married to the May to September timeline, but yes.
Newell,
I'm going to vote yes with the language saying that it can be used when weather's appropriate for use. Does that mess up the vote if we change the way the
Well,
motion is?
you're voting yes and you're saying yes for May to September, but if you.
No, I'm going to say yes to May to September, and the applicant can come back and talk about it, extending that time if it's appropriate.
Yes. Okay.
4-2.
That
Well,
passes.
and if there is some willingness to consider it, again, it's no small task to take down the bollards and the other things. This is not going to turn into a year-long thing. So if you
Right.
want to put limits on it, that's okay. It's just we all know Cleveland weather, May to September, and I understand the language in the application. I do. If I'm contradicting it, I apologize. But we know that it could just as likely be that we have an early spring and it's March to September or October. We can agree that once they're taken down, and that's really it. Once the bollards are taken down, we're done for the season. That's the
Okay.
fact. No matter what the weather is the next day.
I hear you. I hear you. Okay, cool. Thanks. Okay, we have a river buffer that we need to discuss because rivers are a thing. But river buffers were not in the 1890s. So Nancy,
well,
why not
so
get your motion on.
where's my river buffer motion? Okay, so this motion, so the area variances that are granted, that practical difficulties, this motion is actually a use variance. And so
Well,
it's
this is
different-
treated as an area variance by the Board of Zoning Appeals in the zoning review letter. It's clearly an area variance.
oh, I thought they had treated it as a use variance.
No, I'm looking at the zoning review letter and it says an area variance of 51 feet would be needed. And the BZA treated it as an area variance as well.
Well, then we should as well.
We should
Yes.
as well.
So it's an area variance.
So this is again, this is only the leased patio area because the building already is
Correct.
where it is, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Was
that
that-
makes sense.
Was that Dale that said correct?
That was right.
No, that was Rob. No, what I would say to you is that if you have outdoor dining in front of the building, you would need the river buffer variance as well.
For that, okay.
That's the whole thing.
you want to make a motion, Nancy, or do you want
Okay,
me to take a stab?
okay, well, my motion probably only deals with the outdoor patio area. My motion was to grant a variance to 115102 to permit outdoor patio dining within the 120-foot minimum boundary of the buffer area according to the terms of the lease. The planning and zoning code requires the minimum boundary of the buffer area setback shall be 120 feet preserved in its natural state. The building at 13 Bell Street, as well as the village lease property area for the outdoor patio dining are longtime existing structures within the central shopping district. The building and the concrete pad are inside the 120-foot minimum boundary of the buffer area.
So the motion,
So this motion it covers the entire property.
Okay, I'm going to second that. So we have a motion by
I'm
Rob,
gonna
second
second
by
it too,
Drew,
yeah.
and we're going to talk about the motion. So this is allowing the dining in the village-owned parcel that's leased to 13 Bell Street to be used for dining because it's in the riparian setback, which is with a no-no zone, because they're supposed to leave the riverbanks natural, but clearly this has not been natural since, somewhere around 1890. So that's where we're at.
And it also would provide patio dining in front of the building, should that be approved at some point.
Okay,
Because I refer to the whole building, not just the patio.
Okay.
area.
so within the property,
Yes,
okay. But in and of itself, it does not give the patio dining
no.
no,
variance. So, okay, we're all clear, as okay.
Yep.
Any discussion or shall we vote?
Vote.
Look at how bold we have gotten. Let's do a roll call.
Rogoff,
Rogoff.
Rogoff,
yes,
DiBernardo,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes,
Grube,
Yes.
Newell,
Yes.
Rocky.
Yes.
That one passes. I can do that math. That passes. Okay. What else do we need to go through here? Dale has turned back into a legal scholar. It's just like when he was back in law school, spending hours in the library.
I've already emailed my law clerk to see me in the morning.
Gonna
You're like,
fix it.
Chagrin Falls had a meeting.
Oh.
So
Can I ask a
as soon as
question?
we get Dale's opinion on this matter, then I'll be able to issue the overall results of all the granted variances and.
Well,
Hold on.
yeah,
Hold
I
on.
was going to ask if anybody wanted to reconsider that motion that's tied. Or vote on it in a different way. You have the ability to do that.
And I suggest we do that.
So
I think
that-
we've made progress since that first vote.
Okay.
and that was related to the setback in front of the building? No,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
eliminating the,
Lot line.
yeah. That's number 3.
It's the two tops in front of the building that we're
Right.
Right.
Yes. That's to allow the outdoor dining in this area.
I don't know.
specifically that to allow the outside door dining in front of the building.
Yes.
Yes,
just
just
those-
on the 13 Bell
Not-
Street property.
Yeah, not the whole building, just
I understand.
that's,
Yeah.
small.
front of
Right.
the pretty window.
Just as.
Non-lease space, yeah.
Pretty window. We're gonna go with that word.
So someone's got to make a motion.
I know, but like,
Do you want-
I'm not
do you
sure
want
how
me
to
to-
make a motion that someone else might adjust on.
do you want me to repeat the motion? I don't know how you could adjust it, actually.
Yeah, go ahead and repeat the motion, Nancy.
Well, it already was voted on. Why are we repeating it?
Well, because we can try again and take another crack at it and perhaps come up with a
I guess we
different
can't, all right,
answer.
we've never done that before. It's
No,
kind of-
we
all right,
haven't.
new
We are
territory.
forging new legal territory here in Chagrin Falls for ourselves.
Ugh.
But Dale says we can, so.
Yes, you
All right.
can.
Dale
And
Stroke. New legal territory.
All good legal decisions happen at 9:30 on a Wednesday.
so you want me to, repeat this motion?
Yeah.
Motion to grant a variance to section 1141-03A, the Planning and Zoning Code to permit the parking.
Aren't we on
Space.
113805A2?
Yes, 113805A2.
Oh, that's,
That's the one we're looking at.
Right.
okay. Okay, that's the first motion. And the motion to grant a variance to section 113805A2 of the Planning and Zoning Code to approve, no, that's 1130.
That's the one we
1130.
picked up on.
That's the one where there was a
One
tie
that's
on,
not.
and that was the first
That
one.
was the first motion.
The 0 lot line?
Yeah,
For the 20-foot to allow outdoor service in the required front yard of the 13 Bell Street property.
Okay. Motion to grant a variance to section 113805A2 of the Planning and Zoning Code to approve a 0 lot line setback from the required front yard in the area of the existing parking spaces located at the front-facing portion of the building to be used for an outdoor patio dining area from May through September each year. The section requires that outdoor service be limited to seating areas which are not located in setbacks. The terms of the lease for the village-owned parcel located next in 13 Bell Street provide in part that the premises may be used as an outdoor patio dining area. The 0 lot line setback is necessary to accommodate the outdoor patio dining area.
So this is letting them use the circled space that Rob has so helpfully circled for us as seating.
I'll make a second, but I have a question.
Okay, so we've been motioned by Rogoff, second by Evans, and go for your question.
Okay, my question is, since we've only granted them a variance for 14 parking spaces, they can't put the two tops there. Is that correct?
yes, we'd have to make another motion for a parking variance.
The only way they could do it is if they reduce the number of seats in the other part of the patio, so. Well, no, because it's by square footage also, so you're correct.
You're correct. Yeah, Jan, good point.
Thank you.
Can I add something also?
Yes,
My intent here was because of the way you voted to only allow the 14, I thought it might end up changing the vote on this issue to break the tie, but
Correct.
yeah.
What was your point, Dale?
To reconsider it in light of the fact that you've only allowed a variance for 14 spaces.
So I'll have to take away 4 seats.
Angie.
So, yeah,
Can I just, the way that the vote for the 14 variance was represented as, we need to take these two issues separately. The 14 for the patio that's already allowed, and then for the additional add-on patio. I mean, it wasn't represented as, I mean, that's at least the way I took it, that we need to take these in turn.
right. Well,
Okay.
yeah, you changed the motion that was at the Board of Zoning Appeals because they were allowing 16 and you're only allowing 14.
Right.
So you don't, you have to deal with these
Two.
two tables here. Yeah.
Okay.
I was just trying to take them in order.
Well, either that or they could rearrange the seating so that they had fewer seats in the patio area, the leased patio area.
Well, it's also based on square footage of area, whichever is greater. So the seat count is, although it's representative on the one side, you have to look at square footage also, based on.
Let me ask a question and see if I can get caught up. We had a tied vote, which means the issue on this outdoor seating in front of the building goes back to the ruling of BZA. Is that correct?
I think so, but I want to verify that with some research.
Okay, and if that's the case, we've just taken the parking away. I mean, we've done the parking variance without the seating included in the number of parking spaces that are required.
So
Right,
does
so-
this mean the new motion should really include allowing for the seating and allowing for a variance on the 2 parking spaces that would be required if these seats were also to be allowed?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
you-
think,
You can do
Okay.
that.
Can I motion to amend the motion to include
It hasn't been.
a variance to 2 parking spaces or a variance to 2 parking spaces in addition to allowing the 2
the
seating?
outdoor seating.
Can someone second my motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so a motion to amend the motion was made by Grube with a second by Newell. Now we're going to vote just on the motion amending the motion. So the new motion, if you vote yes, would then be to allow the 2 tables in front of the pretty window and give them a variance on 2 parking spaces. If those, because we only need those variances if those seats go to go forward.
Well done.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Newell.
Okay,
Roll call.
Rogoff,
Yes.
DiBernardo,
Yes.
Evans,
No,
Grube,
Yes.
Newell,
No.
Rocky,
No,
3-3 again.
Well, we
Okay.
wait for Dale's legal interpretation of a tied vote.
Well, but maybe it's getting late and I missed it, but wasn't that just? on
That
the
was
motion
just to amend.
That was just to amend the motion.
Oh, that was just the amend. Well, the amend didn't
Right.
pass.
The amend didn't pass.
The amend didn't pass, which bodes super well for the motion, guys.
So now you're voting on the motion again that Nancy made about
Yeah,
11580582.
But it's a
That won't
motion
work.
to give them tables where they don't have parking. And where are they gonna park cars? In the river? Like, clearly that's not a
No,
good idea.
no, that's not
So,
gonna
like,
work.
Well,
Can we try doing the amend again, and we know what we're voting on is the amendment, not the actual ordinance, not the actual variance?
Did you
well, how
not
about
know
if
you
you
were
put
voting
it
on the
this way?
amendment?
How about if you vote to deny the variance from 1138.0582?
What?
Yeah, oh my God, you're going down the rabbit hole.
What?
This is it would be a motion to deny the variance to section 1138.05 parens A parens 2, which would mean that you would not be able to put the outdoor seating in front of the restaurant at 13 Bell.
If it was voted in favor,
So do we need to rescind the motion we have on the table?
11:35.
He must mean 1138.
1138.05.
Oh, okay.
Nancy, do you withdraw your motion?
please
Do I
say
have
yes.
to? Okay. If
Okay.
you insist.
then I'd
can I
like to make a,
first Dale's motion?
oh, I was just gonna say, I'd like to make a motion to deny the variance for section 1138.05 parens A parens 2 to the planning and zoning code.
Second,
So denying it means that we would not allow them to use the area in front of the arched window for patio seating.
Correct.
Yes.
thank you, Dale.
Okay, so let's do a roll call.
Rob, you're earning your keep tonight.
Yeah.
I couldn't
DiBernardo,
hear.
No.
Evans,
Yes,
Grube,
No,
Newell,
Yes.
Rocky,
Yes,
and Rogoff.
No.
okay, so we're gonna have to wake up the law clerks. I mean, do we want to
Right.
keep?
Well,
twisting
there was
this
a
in
reason
different
why I did
directions?
that also. I wanted to make it clear that there's a deadlock on voting either way. That'll help us in our research. So my law clerk will thank you tomorrow.
Okay,
meeting
Yeah.
adjourned.
hold on a second, Jan. Okay, so the next step is that you're going to delve into the catacombs of the law libraries and figure out what this looks like.
Right, and I will write an opinion, a written opinion, and I welcome anybody who's either a proponent or opponent of the variance from the audience to send me any legal authority they have, whether, for whichever position they're taking before we rule, to give everybody a fair opportunity to express their legal views on this. And then one other thing is, I know that Amy had her hand up earlier, and you might want to, I think it would be appropriate to let her make a comment here that may impact something here.
Okay, why don't we let Amy come in and we'll do a quick comment.
Doing so now.
Thanks. Amy, you're on mute still. Okay, go
Good.
ahead. Yep.
Okay, the comment I was going to make is that if the patio in front was not granted, that parking could still not happen. And if that was the case, I mean, we're okay with that. We could have, a waiting bench in front, similar to down the street. So if that helps matters, we could do that. We just still can't do parking because of the safety issues, but we could do just the side lot patio and just have the front be a waiting area.
Okay. That help. Does any other?
That helps a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Amy.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Sorry for making you wait.
That's okay.
Well, I have a question about that.
Sorry, I'm getting punch drunk over here.
Did we approve or deny the variance to eliminate those 2 parking spaces?
We did. We approved to not allow parking.
So we eliminated the parking spaces.
I believe we did, and don't quote
Yes.
me.
Yes.
We eliminated the parking spaces.
From May to September.
Mhm.
Okay,
But we're not letting them use it for seating either.
right. Okay.
Or we may or may not. We don't know if we're allowing them, I should
Yeah.
say.
Right.
We're hung on that question.
Well, with that in mind,
Well,
That makes
so wait a second though. I have another question now. We were approving a setback, a 0 lot line setback.
Correct.
So if the setback stands at, what is it there, 20 feet, I think,
Yes.
then I don't think you can park there either. Because the front of
Well,
the building.
well, that's a good point, but they're both pointing in the same direction. In other words, they both say, we don't want parking, and you're saying we can't park there if we wanted it or not.
Well, you couldn't park at any of those spaces all along there. You couldn't park if there's
Well,
no.
the setback rule doesn't apply to parking there. It applies to the buildings or the outdoor use, but I don't know what the parking setback is, and I don't think there is one in the central business district.
Okay,
I'd have to look.
There's a
it's a
question.
good question, Nancy.
It is.
Yeah, well, it's also,
I think somehow we're staying on track here.
are we? Yeah, well, I won't bring up
It's a
some of
miracle.
the things.
Would that new information change the way anybody voted? Should we make another motion?
I mean, I think they're not going to park there anyway because of the seating over there. So why not allow them the extra seats if our goal is to help people succeed? But
Well, they're allowed to park there.
But the bollards are there, correct?
right.
No.
Well, no,
Right.
she's saying they're not going to because of their concerns over safety issues,
Right,
because of the side lot dining.
They're not going to eat there.
They're
But
not
you
going
have
to
to
use
remember
it.
that
They're not going
Okay.
to. They're not going to use it as parking because
But you
of the
have
side lot dining.
But parking is permitted there, you're saying. So they will park, people will be allowed to park there.
Amy's saying they don't want people parking there because there will be tables in the side lot and they don't want people at the tables.
But I don't know that they can, how would they prevent that?
She said they're going to put a bench in.
But they're parking spaces. You can't put a bench in a parking space.
If it's on their property, they can.
Also, please remember that this variance goes with the life of the property, not with the business. So they may say that they're gonna put a bench there, but in 5 years from now or 10 years from now, that doesn't mean that there's gonna be a bench there.
But in 5 or 10 years, I'm gonna have an automatic driving car and we won't have to worry about parking because it'll all solve itself.
Yeah, you wish.
See, I've decreed it, it'll work. What could
We
go
gotta
wrong?
leave something for the next council.
Good point, Jim. There you go.
Okay, so what, Dale, do we have setbacks in parking?
There's nothing in the central business, but they refer you back to chapter 1137. I'm getting there now.
And Dale, would there be anything that would apply because these are pre-existing spaces that were used as parking before?
Right, in front, yeah, in front of the, in the chapter 1137, the surface parking area is 10 feet to the street right-of-way line. But because those spaces are grandfathered, and they've been parking there probably since before we had zoning, they probably wouldn't have to meet that 10-foot setback.
Okay. Do we want to keep hashing away at this? Do we want to make another motion and vote on this? Is anyone like wobbling on their stance, or does Dale just need to do the research and decide what happens when we tie?
Yeah, I'm willing to bring this up after some legal research and kind of, I mean, I like to get a decision tonight so that it's final, but I don't know.
But once this meeting's over, we can't just like make motions to give variances in a council meeting, can we?
Yes, you can. You could,
Oh.
yeah. Before,
Yeah, but
Terrible
Dale,
precedent?
your
The
legal
Supreme-
research is going to answer the question. It'll either be approved or not approved based on what your research tells us.
not
there would
necessarily.
Be no reason for another vote.
No, that's not necessarily the case. The legal research may indicate that there's a tie and it's not an approval or a denial, and we'd have to figure something else out. I don't think that'll be the case, but
But
I
does
don't
that
know.
mean we have to set up another hearing and give like notice and like?
Well, I think you want to continue this hearing rather than complete
There's a
it,
good.
so that we have the opportunity to get my research, and perhaps you can make another motions. And even if you completed the hearing, before you approve the minutes, you always have the right to modify your vote. And the Supreme Court of Ohio has ruled on that in the past, where boards have voted on something and then they changed their mind at the next meeting and changed.
Wait, seriously?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was probably a Shelley Burns case that was.
How do we motion to continue the meeting? What does that look like? If you,
Can we just adjourn and then
We
reconvene?
motion to recess until our meeting on the 28th
Right.
I would
on the
put a
20
deadline on it.
Aaron,
on Monday.
Aaron, I'm sorry, this is Christy, the moderator.
Dale, can
Maybe
you
we can-
address I know, Christy. Dale, can you address the question in the question and answer box?
Thank
please?
you. Appreciate that.
Can I what?
Look at the question and answer box. Someone is claiming that it's unfair that Jordan and Amy were able to rebut questions and the public is not able to.
This is in the chat box? No
Yeah.
question.
The question and answer box.
Oh, okay, hang on a second. Continue to implement applicants' terms seems unfair, and we'd have to have a chance for the public to speak as well. Okay, so this came from Danny Ray's.
Gail, would you mind reading it out loud for the record for
Sure.
our minutes?
It says, for the record, continued input from the applicant and the applicant's attorney seems unfair and very unusual without the opportunity for the public to speak as well. I didn't know that anyone else had raised their hand to speak again. If they did and we missed it, then we apologize. But if Danny has something to say on the issues that remain, we ought to let him speak. If it's on something we've already voted on, you do not have to let him speak again.
Okay. Okay. Is he raising his hand and wants to come
He
in?
is.
Okay.
promoting Danny.
Well, he's getting set up, Dale, so we can motion to recess until our meeting, and that seems appropriate. I missed it because all that noise started at that.
You can continue this public hearing until Monday night's council meeting, if you so choose, or you could change it to another day. I would recommend we do it on Monday night. when we're
Yeah, I
in
don't want to leave
council.
these people hanging, like all
Right.
of them, both sides of the
agree.
table.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Ray's, go ahead.
Oh, hi, it took me a minute to get on. No, I respect the due process and the council's decisions either way. I just think it's highly unusual. I mean, the title of this program is public hearing. And if we start, if you voted and then you start, continually hearing from the applicant and the applicant's attorney, I just think it's unfair. I mean, a lot of people may have even signed off by now because the votes have already been taken. So it just seems a little unfair to keep reintroducing when the votes have already been taken, especially because in the spirit of a public hearing, everybody should be able to be heard accordingly. So I just think it's I know this is very unusual. I just think it's it's the fair thing to do.
Okay, but we also didn't have any hands that were raised, and if we did, it was an accident that we missed them, so.
Oh, yeah,
I
no,
mean,
that's
you have
fine.
to raise your hand to let us know you want to speak.
Yeah, it was raised and I wasn't recognized, but that's okay. I mean, it's technology. We're all dealing with this. I just, seems under highly unusual circumstances, continued discussion and revoting is just probably not in the best interest of the spirit of what, a public hearing is supposed to be. But, I respect, the process. So. I'll
I
leave
mean,
it to you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so are we sort of in agreement that we are going to recess until the miscellaneous section, I suppose, of the Monday, June 28th meeting?
Was that a
Which is
motion?
going to be sometime after 7:00 PM. No promises on the time this will start.
I'm in favor of suspending this meeting until the next council meeting,
I am-
wherever it fits in the agenda.
Can I have,
Need a second and a vote for it?
I need a second.
Second,
Okay, motion by group, second by Rocky. Roll call, please.
If you vote no, I'm going to shoot you.
You're not. We don't do that to people.
All
Not
right.
again.
Evans,
Aye.
Drew,
Yes.
Newell,
Yes.
Rocky,
aye.
Rogoff,
Yes.
DiBernardo.
Yes.
Okay, my friends. I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you,
very much.
Aaron.
It was a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.